All right, guys, welcome to Press X Podcast, episode 87. Thank you guys so much for being here with me today, taking time out of your Sunday to come hang out with me and listen to some of the things I'm going to say and talk about. Really appreciate all of the continued support that you guys show. I'm going to have to, lower my mic just a little bit. It seems to be kind of booming. So there we go. I think that's better. But yeah, thanks so much as always for waiting patiently, watching the credits roll. Always appreciative of that. So yeah, episode 87, the Game Awards have come. They came and they went, and we have some stuff to talk about. I feel like we have a pretty solid lineup of topics to discuss over the course of podcast today. Lethal Venom, you're saying nice shirt. Thanks, man. Yeah, it's my Guns N' Roses shirt. I have a few Guns N' Roses shirts. I have a hoodie as well. So thank you for that. But yeah, I'm gonna give you guys a quick rundown of some of the topics that we're gonna discuss over the course of this podcast. I think that some interesting things certainly have happened in the past week. I think, there are a lot of opinions floating around on, different topics, and I'm sure we'll touch on some of that today. So, yeah. I do want to say, though, before I go over some of the topics that we're going to discuss, just do some usual house cleaning. First of all, if you want to help support the podcast, if you are a fan of this podcast, if you enjoy the podcast and you enjoy the content, obviously being here and watching it helps tremendously. But there are a few other things you can do as well to help further support it, such as liking the podcast, hitting the like button for me. We're already almost at 100 likes. You guys are awesome. Thank you for that. You can also share the podcast out. That is probably more important, I think, than most people realize. Sharing the content pretty much lets YouTube's algorithm know that people like the content enough that they're actually sharing it with people, with their friends or their family. So that's one way. If if there's anybody that you think may actually enjoy the podcast and enjoy our weekly get-togethers and conversations, feel free to share it out. Then there is, the ability to become a channel member. I will let you know that right now I have pretty much whittled my channel member perks down to the bare minimum, but that's because going into 2022, I'm hoping that I can find some other perks that I can offer you guys, perks that I can be more committed to. That's mainly why I decided to do that, because anybody who's been a member for a while, well, first of all, thank you. You guys are awesome. Absolutely the backbone of the channel. But I'm sure you've realized that I haven't really been providing any perks, and I want to really kind of think of some things I can do that mainly I can actually commit to and deliver on time. That to me is the most important thing. So going into 2022, I hope to kind of reevaluate that. Right now, the memberships are just simply a way for you to show your support on a monthly basis, and you do get, a shout out. You do get to be part of the credits roll each month. So yeah. And finally, there are super chats. If you want to help support the channel directly during the streams, feel free to super chat. I'll read your super chat. I'm sure you guys know by now how important they are to the channel, and you guys have been showing incredible support over the past week. And I just have to take a moment to thank you for that, because I think some people think that it goes unnoticed or that I'm not really paying attention to it, but that's not the case at all. I'm absolutely paying attention to all of the support that you guys are showing, and none of it goes unnoticed. So just wanted to let you guys know about that. We have let's see here, Mr. Unknown saying Kojima talk, Silent Hill talk, Del Toro talk. Yeah, so I'm certainly not going to open the podcast talking about this, because there are quite a few people who I think are feeling a bit tired of that conversation, and I think that may be putting it lightly. But I'm going to touch on that at some point during the course of the podcast. I don't plan to talk about it very long, but obviously, considering what happened this past week, it needs to be discussed to a certain extent. JDTV, you're saying a monthly perk could be an exclusive stream each month with MBG wearing his clown costume. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed that. I was waiting for the right moment to do that, and that certainly felt like the right moment to do so. It was pretty funny. So yeah, I was enjoying looking at some of the pictures that people were putting out there on Twitter. I put one out myself to Jeff Keighley. It was a good time. I enjoyed the stream. It was a good time. Yeah, I don't know if that would be I don't know, maybe that would be an interesting perk. I wonder how many people would actually become a member just to have a private member stream where I'm just streaming in a clown costume. That would be interesting. But yeah, let me give you guys a quick rundown of some of the topics that we're going to discuss over the course of this podcast. Then I'm going to do my member shout out, and then we will dive into the first topic. So the first thing I want to do is do a rundown and a recap of, the Game Awards. I'm not going to be going over everything, and frankly, I'm not going to really even be talking about the awards themselves because I don't really care too much about the awards themselves, but I am going to go over all of the announcements that I thought were interesting, that stood out to me. I realized I didn't actually do that since the Game Awards ended, and some people were asking me, what I thought about this game or what I thought about that game. You were just getting my off-the-cuff, in-the-moment reaction, and because of some of the stuff that was going on over the course of the stream, I was extremely distracted, as you know. So I definitely want to run down that list and talk about it and just kind of give my thoughts on what games really stood out to me. There has been this request with my content, specifically the podcast. There has been this request from people who tune in, and I'm sure it's a lot of people, that they want me to try to talk about games more often, like actual games, not just the conversations surrounding the games industry, but games themselves. And so I think that this would be a great opportunity to do that. So that's going to be the first topic. KD, thank you, man. You're saying, what's up, MBG? Make a Discord as one of your member perks. Also just picked up Kana off your high praise of the game. Cheers to another good stream. Well, I'm happy to hear that, man. I hope you do enjoy it. I hope that by the time you're finished with it, you feel pretty good about it. I think you will. It's a solid experience. At this point, you probably have a good idea of what you're going into, with Kana Bridge of Spirit. So I hope you enjoy it. And yeah, that's certainly something I could look into. If I'm not mistaken, I think PlayStation is going to be integrating Discord into their platform in a significant way in 2022. So yeah, that's definitely something I could look into. It's going to require some brainstorming. My biggest problem with my member perks is that I've just failed to actually deliver on them in a timely manner. And that's unfair. It's unfair for me to say, hey, you can expect this if you become a member, and then you just don't get it. I know that most people who are members and are becoming members are doing so to support me, but it does make me feel bad. So I just want, at the very least, I want you to understand what you're getting, what you're not getting, and what you hopefully will get in the future, if that makes sense. But that's a good idea, man. Space D, you're saying, can we agree that Xbox isn't playing around this time? Hellblade 2 is the best looking thing out there by a lot. Happy Sunday, MEG. Yeah, I do agree that Xbox, I think if there's one thing that has been made clear over the past year, is they're not playing around anymore. Xbox is now looked at as an integral part of Microsoft's business strategy, to whereas in the past, it wasn't really looked at that way. When it comes to Microsoft, Xbox was always looked at as just kind of a side thing, like do it for fun, maybe something will come from it. And I think in the middle of last generation, there was actually talk that, Microsoft was possibly even considering maybe spinning off Xbox or shutting it down. And then Phil Spencer convinced them not to. And from that point forward, Microsoft was basically trying to decide, are we going to go all in with Xbox or are we going to get rid of this? And they decided to go all in. And I think that in the past year, how many studios Microsoft purchased, buying an entire publisher, having a solid year with announcements overall, yeah. I think that we can all agree that Xbox isn't playing around. Now, whether or not if you're talking about the competitive aspect of Xbox going up against PlayStation up against Xbox, that's a completely different story. But I do agree, they are absolutely not playing around anymore. And I think that in the end, it's going to be a good thing. I know a lot of people think that I am biased, obviously. I don't hide that, as you can see. But I think a lot of people think that I have some kind of secret deep-rooted hatred and disdain for Xbox and Microsoft, and I really don't. I think that the competition is necessary. You bring up Hellblade 2, that's obviously one of the games that we're going to talk about, and I think when you look at Hellblade 2, putting all opinions aside, because we're going to get into that. We'll talk about the gameplay and the graphics and how good it looked and all that stuff. But when you put everything aside, I think it's safe to say that Hellblade 2, that gameplay presentation, is something that you wouldn't expect to see from Xbox. I think at the very least we can all agree on that, where even if you weren't as impressed as other people or you have some qualms with it, I think you can agree that that is more in line with something you would have expected to see during a PlayStation presentation. So I think to me, that is interesting because it does go to show how different things are. I did say, though, that it brought me back to the gameplay demonstration of Rise, Son of Rome. I don't know if you guys remember that. I remember watching the Xbox One presentation years ago, and we saw Rise, Son of Rome. And, that was actually a really good game. I did enjoy Rise, Son of Rome quite a bit. I'm surprised we didn't get a follow-up to that. And I saw this, and I'm like, yeah, it's nice to see Xbox kind of bring a game like that back to a certain extent. But thank you for that, Space D. We also have RU46N2 Ray saying, had the same troll reaction moment as you, sir. What the F? Yeah, we'll talk about that, man. We'll talk about that for sure, because was it a tease? Was it a troll? I don't know. I will say I'm going to talk about a specific tweet that Jeff Keighley put out yesterday that I'm just so baffled. I'm not baffled, truly. I just feel like at this point we're being picked on, we're being bullied. So we'll talk about that. Caped Crusader, member for 9 months, greatness awaits. Thank you so much, buddy. You're saying, hey, MBG, appreciate your quality efforts. By the way, I think Horizon Forbidden West will shock the competition and win Game of the Year in 2022. Guerrilla isn't playing. I do agree, man. I am not kidding when I say that minute-long gameplay trailer, I don't know who edited that trailer. I don't know who put that together, but whoever did an incredible job. And I was like, whoa. Usually when I'm sold on a game, and I mean this, usually when I'm sold on a game where I'm like, okay, this is a game I want to play, that's pretty much it. Like, that's usually where it ends. So in order for somebody to be like, okay, well, you're already sold on the game, but let me show you something else that's, maybe even better than what you thought. And when I saw that minute-long gameplay trailer, even though it was short, I was like, whoa, this, okay, like I thought I couldn't get any more hyped. But I really am. And I do think you may be right, Cape Crusader. It's going to be interesting to see Horizon Forbidden West actually go up against God of War Ragnarok next year, as well as games like Elden Ring and Starfield. It's going to be interesting. 2022 is going to be a crazy year for gaming. Crazy. Jeff B. Gaming, you're saying Grand Blue Fantasy Relink 2022. Is that coming out in 2022? I don't know if you're saying that you want that to be a thing or if that is a thing. I'm not familiar with the game, so I can't really say much about that, Jeff. JFK TV, you're saying just a suggestion, but seeing as how PlayStation, Xbox, and Nintendo all have an X button, I feel like Press X Podcast should cover the other two as well. Yeah, I feel like it would be unfair for me to attempt to do that because, truthfully, I don't really interact with those platforms anywhere near I'll put it this way. I don't interact with them enough to justify trying to attempt to talk about them in a significant way. It wouldn't work. But I do understand what you're saying. I kind of do have that. Like, I was thinking about calling it like Press Cross Podcast because that's technically, it's the cross button. But that doesn't really roll off the tongue. And I feel like people might actually be confused as to what the podcast really is. So, but I do understand what you're saying, JFK TV. It is true that, the X button is not, or the cross button, but the X button, as it's called, is not exclusive to PlayStation. So Thank you for the suggestion, man. I saw that JDTV. I think you were asking if I'm going to bring community submissions back. I may bring them back. Yeah, at some point we may have to bring community submissions back. I feel like community submissions are good when there aren't as many like immediate topics to cover. Like the past week or two, or even 3 weeks, there's been just a lot to talk about. So I may kind of do them intermittently, but I don't know. Maybe it would make more sense for me to try to incorporate them more consistently. But I'm sure there will be a time where they come back. They're not retired permanently. That's for sure. They're just on hiatus. Green Al Gill, you're saying both 2017 and 2022 Horizon versus Breath of the Wild. This is insane. Yeah, that's true. I totally forgot about that. Yeah, that's assuming that Breath of the Wild 2 doesn't get delayed, which I don't know. I feel like it's been a while since anybody's heard anything about it, so I think everybody's assuming it's going to come out next year. So if it does, yeah, I think that yeah. Who would have thought that that's how it would have went down? TGHN 100, you're saying just came out that Halo didn't hire permanent employees, just temporary workers for 18 months. If this is done in other Xbox studios, it's not good at all. Yeah, I know what you're referring to. Jason Schreier came out and basically highlighted some of the development struggles that Halo went through, and one of those struggles was they just didn't have enough manpower, really. They had to outsource probably more than they wanted to, probably more than they should have. That's a problem that all, I think, major publishers are facing right now. Outsourcing is something that happens frequently. In fact, one of the topics we're going to discuss today, and I'll let you know, is Sony buying a studio specifically for that, specifically for being a support role. And that's more critical than I think most people realize. So I want to definitely dive into that a little bit later on, but it's not anything new. I think the most interesting thing was how apparently Halo Infinite was one of these situations where it got rebooted like midway through development, like completely rebooted at some point, and they were under like a strict deadline from Microsoft to release the game by the launch of the Xbox Series. And I think it's interesting because apparently the developers, 343, if Jason Schreier's reporting is true, they were like being told like you're gonna hit that date, like we're gonna ship it. And so I almost wonder, when looking back at July of 2020, when we saw the first Halo gameplay, I almost feel like 343 was well aware that like this isn't ready, but Microsoft is making us come out here and show it anyway. And Microsoft wants us to release it at the launch of the next Xbox. So they're like, we tried telling you. But yeah, really interesting. Really interesting. Hopefully, we'll see what happens at 343 going forward. But people seem to be happy with Halo Infinite overall. And I think that that's probably the most important thing. Microsoft did what they needed to do. They delayed the game by a year, and the game came out, and fans mostly seem happy, from what I understand. But then again, I haven't been looking at it too deeply. Marky Mark, you're saying I'm still. You said pretty. You're saying I'm still pretty. Breath of the Wild took Game of the Year. I guess you meant to say like upset. Did Breath of the Wild? I think Breath of the Wild did win Game of the Year. Anyway, I'm going to try my best to read this. I'm still pretty. Breath of the Wild took Game of the Year when Horizon was the best game that year. Okay, I get what you're saying now. You're pretty upset that Breath of the Wild took Game of the Year when Horizon was the best game that year. Zelda was a great game, but I feel it won because of its name. Yeah, I mean, honestly, my advice to you is don't spend any energy worrying about who's winning Game of the Year, whether it's Sony, whether it's Microsoft, Nintendo, somebody else. Joseph Fares just won Game of the Year for It Takes Two, and I don't think anybody expected that to happen. And it's like, that's great for him, man. Like, I'm always happy for developers when they win these awards, but I've truly gotten to a point where I just don't care at all. And I truly would recommend to anybody who is interested in this stuff, care about it only to a certain degree. Like, don't care about it to the point where it's going to upset you or bother you, because it doesn't matter. It does. If Horizon Zero Dawn was your game of the year in 2017, that's all that should matter to you. Shouldn't matter. Like nothing else should matter. If you want to engage in conversation and kind of go back and forth and talk about different things, that's fine. But you know, truthfully, how you feel about what you're playing and how you perceive what it is that's out there is what should matter most, and that should be at the forefront. So if in your eyes Horizon Zero Dawn won Game of the Year that year, then it did for you, and that's all that matters. That is the game, your Game of the Year. So thank you for that. But really quickly, because I didn't realize how far we were into this podcast already. Yeah, so we're gonna go over the Game Awards highlights. We're also gonna talk about the Matrix Awakens Unreal Engine 5 experience, because this has been something that kind of took everyone by surprise. We're apparently getting a tease, and I have to call it a tease because that's exactly what it felt like, of what I don't want to use next gen anymore. Somebody told me in my last video that you got to stop calling it next gen, man. We're past a year of these consoles being out. So we are getting a tease of what true current gen games can achieve under the right circumstances. And that is very exciting to me. So I want to talk about that. We're going to talk about that studio acquisition that Sony made and how it's more significant than I think most people realize. Something else I do want to talk about, because I've been getting asked this quite frequently, which I think is understandable, is Sony going to hold a PlayStation experience? Is there any chance that Sony will hold a PlayStation experience before the end of the year? Or if not the end of the year, when exactly will Sony have their next event? And I don't want to approach this conversation like, oh, Sony needs to do something right now, because I feel like a lot of times that's how people perceive what I'm saying. And I think they get upset. Not that I care, but I want people to perceive me the correct way, which is I want to talk about the idea of Sony's next event in the context of they're going to have to do something at some point. When will they do it? What is the most likely time they'll do it? And what can we expect to see? Not necessarily like, oh, Sony absolutely needs to do something, because every time we have that conversation, it plays into this back and forth that is just not even worth paying attention to, where, some people are going to tell you, oh, Sony failed this year. Sony had a terrible year. And, some people are going to say that this was the best year ever that Sony had. And it's like, well, I don't know that many people are going to say that, but it's just a back and forth thing. And so, we're not going to entertain that conversation. We're just going to get right into it. We do actually have a bit of an update potentially on the PlayStation experience situation. We will get into that later. And then the final topic that I want to discuss, if there's time for it, is basically just take a look at the first half of 2022 and how it's looking for PlayStation releases, and kind of go over that. Because I feel like now that the Game Awards are over, we're very close to going into the holiday season. Everybody's going to be going on their holiday break, and everybody's going to come back, and the gaming year for 2022 is going to kick off. I want to talk about how it's looking so far. So, yeah, hit that like button again for me, guys. We're almost at 200 likes already, which is awesome. JDTV, you're saying Game of the Year shouldn't matter, but I find it strange that Ratchet & Clank didn't win one single award. Personally, my Game of the Year. Yeah, I did. That just again falls under one of those situations where it's like, wow, I played Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart as well, and I was very impressed with it. It's not my personal Game of the Year, but I did enjoy my time with it a lot, and I was obviously very impressed with what Insomniac Games achieved just, right out of the gate with the PS5. But it is surprising that it didn't win a single award. You would think that maybe it would have won at least one, but again, to me, it did win award for most technically impressive game I've played all year. That it won MBG's most technically impressive game I've played all year. That's what matters to me. And hey, like I said, if it's your Game of the Year, man, that's what should matter to you. Darkborn, you're saying, I still hold firm to thinking that Sony will do a larger event after a few more games release. They are not trying to trip over their own games. Yeah, I think that's a pretty solid mindset to have, and we will talk more in depth about that specific mindset. The idea of Sony not wanting to trip over their own games, the need for Sony. Is there actually a need for Sony to make any game announcements right now or even in the first half of next year. We will talk about that. At least I hope we will. I hope there's time. I don't know if I'm going to be able to go on for 3.5, 4 hours today, but we'll see what happens. Quickly though, before I dive into the first topic, I want to give a big shout out to my members. So we have the Play Has No Limits Plus tier, and I do want to make it clear because I feel like some people are not aware of this. If you are currently a member at any tier level and you do not hear your name read, or you do not see your name in the credits roll, it's simply because it hasn't updated yet. It will update. It updates on a monthly basis. So for if you became a member last week or during my last podcast, you're not going to hear or see your name here, but all throughout January and every month after that you stay a member, your name will be there. So I just want to make that clear so people don't get upset or anything. It updates on a monthly basis. Somebody's saying, MVG, hey man, did you go to the doctor for your throat? Not yet. My doctor's appointment, I think, is it should be later this week. Yeah, it's later this week. I am feeling better though, so I don't know what that was about, but I'm way past due for a checkup anyway. So no worries, man. I'm doing well. You don't have to worry about that. But I appreciate you asking, dude. Okay, so we have the Play Has No Limits Plus tier. This is the highest tier. People who are truly going above and beyond to support the content that I do here. So big shout out to Junior Jackson, Samuel Payne, Josh Z, Agile Ice 24, Skin Tight Salmon, PlayStation Pete, RU46 N2 Ray, iSiler 18, Mr. S is what I'm going to call him because I'm not reading that entire name out. Whiskey Gaming and Anthony Ramos. You guys are awesome. Thank you for the support. Then we have the Play Has No Limits tier. This is the second highest tier. Also plays a vital role in helping support the content. So big shout out to Introvert Gaming Dude, Ryan Butcher, John Renzi, Adrian D, AWS Asher, Zanarkand Blitzer, Ivano Kachofel, Space Gambler Jr., AJ Saeed, Rune Gasoden, JDTV, Sir Speaks a Lot, A Shorty Faye, Big Norman 0518, Shaky Shako, Tyson Webb 509, Black Manta 1989, Sane JT, Brandon Jet, Chad Perez, and Adrian Lupton. Once again, thank you guys. Really do appreciate the support. But with that being said, we're going to move on to the first topic. I do want to get this super chat. Alex Mercer, the prototype, says, despite the bad reputation EA/Activision has, I hope Microsoft doesn't end up buying them. They hold some of the most beloved iconic games in the industry. Nothing against Xbox or anything. No, I totally understand what you're saying, man. You're basically saying that you have to separate the reputation of the company and the working conditions at the company and even maybe their business practices from the IP that they own. And I think that's totally fair because when you do, Activision owns Crash Bandicoot and Spyro, and it reminds me of Konami, right? Where it's like Konami owns Metal Gear Solid, Silent Hill, Castlevania. These are beloved IP that mean something, truly mean something to a lot of people. And these companies, you just wish that they didn't still own them, that these IP could be given to a different publisher to do something great with. But what you're saying is you don't want Xbox to buy one of these companies, because if Xbox were to buy one of these companies, then that means they would all become, I'm just going to be real with you guys, I'm not going to call them Xbox exclusives anymore. I'm not going to call them Microsoft exclusives anymore, because that's not what they are. I'm going to call them Game Pass exclusives. That's what they are. So any publisher that Microsoft may buy in the future, if they decide to buy another one, all those games will become Game Pass exclusives, and Game Pass isn't on PlayStation. So the idea of ever losing all of EA's games, all of Activision's games, current games, future games, yeah, hopefully that doesn't happen. The good news is it's extremely, and I mean extremely unlikely that, either of these publishers will be purchased by anybody. So rest easy there. But we're going to dive into the first topic, guys. So the Game Awards, as I said, they came and they went. And I want to run down a list of the games that were revealed and announced that I personally am interested in, and that I thought actually, I don't know for sure that I'm completely sold on all of these games because there were quite a few announcements that were made at the Game Awards. And, I guess one of the things I will say before, well, actually, I should ask this question after we run down this list because I think it would make more sense. But the first game I want to bring up is one that I believe leaked out. Like we talked about it at least once or twice on the channel, and that is Quantic Dream's next game. This is a game it's a Star Wars game, and it's called Star Wars Eclipse. But we do actually have some new information on this game via Tom Henderson from Twitter. He's a very well-known, very respected insider because he is extremely accurate with his information. And so I thought that we would go over this because when you look at that trailer that was revealed for Star Wars Eclipse, a lot of people, I think, were kind of surprised, first of all, that Quantic Dream was making a Star Wars game. Second of all, how if you watch this trailer, it had like a darker tone to it. So that's not something we usually see with Star Wars. Like a lot of people were like, okay, this is going to be a different type of Star Wars. And what era is it set in, chat? I don't have it written down here. I need you to let me know. Is it the High Republic era? I forget. They revealed which era it's set in. So you're going to have to tell me because I don't want to get that wrong because I think that's the High Republic. Okay. So I was right about that. Yeah, so that's something that I think is getting a lot of people very excited about this Star Wars game because the High Republic is a completely different era. And I see somebody asking, is Star Wars Eclipse cross-gen or next-gen? It's 100% going to be next-gen only. And you'll know why when I go over this new information in just a minute here. Space D, you're saying, I don't think Xbox is buying EA or Ubisoft, most likely WB and or Square Enix Western Division. Well, the truth is, I don't think anybody is really aware. Like, I don't think anybody knows what Microsoft's next move is going to be with acquisitions. I'm just going to assume that Microsoft is not going to buy any major publishers anytime soon. I do think that WB could be a potential candidate for acquisition. Square Enix, though, even though you're saying they're Western Division, I don't think, first of all, I don't think Square Enix is going to be bought up by anybody. And if they are, I certainly don't think it'll be Microsoft. That would be a shocker. I don't think anybody would have seen that coming, except you, Space D. So, Darkborn, you're saying there's no way Xbox could buy another big publisher like that again unless they triple the price of Game Pass or more. Right now, they are bleeding cash. Well, that's the interesting part about Microsoft and Xbox is they can bleed a lot of cash and it won't ever be a problem. But yeah, the idea is eventually they want to be profitable. I think Microsoft's, truthfully, I don't think they're going to buy. I don't think they're going to buy any major publishers anytime soon. I would be very surprised if they did. And Darkborn, again, you're saying quite simply they are paying for thousands of developers and high overhead to release games for a $1 subscription. Usually $10, but yeah, there's a lot of $1 offers. How is that sustainable if they buy more studios? Well, you have to understand that Microsoft looking at Game Pass as sustainable that doesn't mean it's profitable. And I think that's really important for people to understand. People, I think, they look at the word sustainable and then they look at the word profitable. And of course, it's understandable why you put those two together because sustainability is what will lead to profitability. And right now, Game Pass is absolutely sustainable. Microsoft has pretty much an infinite amount of money, but the idea is it has to become profitable eventually. But it's very obvious that Microsoft is willing to wait years, many years, possibly a decade or longer for that to happen. Everything they're doing now is in the investment phase. So when it comes to sustainability, Game Pass is absolutely sustainable as long as Microsoft sees it as a viable avenue to eventually be, make money and it be profitable. So, but I do understand what you're saying, Darkborn. I do understand what you're saying. Eventually, they're going to have to see a profit. But getting back to Star Wars: The High Republic, here are some of the new details that were leaked out. It's being written by Quantic Dream Paris, so David Cage is very much involved. Eclipse is believed to be around 3 to 4 years away at a minimum. Now, that right there will let you know that it's not going to be cross-gen. This is a next-gen only game, and it might not be out till 2024, 2025, potentially. Again, 3 to 4 years minimum. That's why, it's hard to get overly excited about games like this, because it's like Wolverine, right? Like, oh my God, this looks awesome. This is going to be amazing, but it's many years away. It's a ways off. Quantic Dream Paris is currently struggling with hiring staff. That's likely due to the negative press that their studio has gotten, potentially it being a toxic environment. But it says the biggest problem on the development side is with their internal Quantic Dream engine, which is not built for an open world title. And so that is what is extremely interesting about this, is we're looking at a Quantic Dream developed game that's a Star Wars game, but it's not going to be anything like their previous games. They are making a open world action game. And I think that there were even rumors previously that there's going to be some type of multiplayer. I mean, I got to tell you, of all the things that Quantic Dream could have done after Detroit Become Human, an open world action oriented Star Wars game set during the High Republic is not something I would have ever considered, but I think it sounds very promising. There was also somebody else. I don't know who this person's name was. They're on Twitter. They apparently have some information about Quantic Dream, and I don't know if this is true or not, but one of the things they did say is that, and this wouldn't surprise me at all, is that apparently this new Star Wars game, it is going for a darker tone, but it's inspired by The Last of Us. I have to admit that I don't really know how, like, I don't know if I believe that per se, because it's like a Star Wars Last of Us game, but I think that what they're trying to convey is they're trying to get a very serious tone. I mean, we know what Quantic Dream is known for, so I think that this is going to be potentially, I have to say potentially here, maybe the darkest Star Wars game we've ever, not even game, but story maybe we've ever gotten. I mean, like, since, well, then again, I know that there's a lot of stories in the Star Wars universe, so maybe not the darkest, but one of the darker stories. So, I mean, I think that there's a lot of potential here, and I'm not the biggest Star Wars fan anymore. I played Jedi Fallen Order, and that was a really good game. Respawn did a great job. I love that game, and that kind of really got me back into Star Wars. I'm like, this is like, I think maybe the best Star Wars game I've ever played. And so the idea that we're gonna get, I don't know, something. It's hard to imagine. I have to admit, man, it's really, really difficult to imagine what a Quantic Dream action game will be like, because they're just not known for that. Like, I have no doubt that the story of this Star Wars Eclipse game is going to be great. The graphics are going to be top notch. The writing will probably be very good, characters, all that stuff. But man, it's going to be very interesting when we get our first gameplay of this Star Wars Eclipse game, because it's just going to be either really, really surprising in a good way, like, wow, Quantic Dream is doing this, or it's going to be really surprising in a bad way, where it's like, wow, yeah, you can tell Quantic Dream is trying to make an action game right now, and it's just not working very well. So, yeah, this was definitely one of the stronger announcements for the show. I think it's just a little bit disappointing that it's so far away, but man, it sounds promising, and it has a lot of potential. And some people were asking if it's going to be a PlayStation exclusive, because Quantic Dream is, they've been known to work with Sony and develop their games and make them exclusive to Sony. This isn't going to be exclusive. As far as we understand, it's not going to be exclusive. It seems like the partnership that was there with Quantic Dream and Sony is officially over. I don't think it ended in bad terms, because Sony actually allowed Quantic Dream to release their games on the PC, which is something that Sony is not, they don't usually do that. You're saying something is wrong with my audio a little bit. Are you guys having any issues with the audio? Does it sound muffled? Does it sound too low? I could check real quick, make sure there's nothing else. Everything on my end seems to be normal. So it might be on your end, honestly. You might want to make sure it's not on your side. Okay, yeah, everybody's giving me good feedback. Everybody's saying the audio is good, so might be on your end, buddy. Let me see. Darkborn again, you're saying it's interesting how Disney is giving out the Star Wars and Marvel license to a lot of studios. I wonder what else Sony might get after Wolverine. Yeah, that's something that I've noticed as well. As it seems like Disney really is just ready to give out a license to just about anybody. I find it interesting how Microsoft seems to not be really getting in on this. Like the biggest license I've seen from Microsoft is Indiana Jones. You know, you don't really see Microsoft pursuing the same type of licensed games. There are other publishers that aren't either, but I think what's interesting is that, you know, Sony is going very much in, like, you know, in a big way by getting Wolverine and locking down KOTOR Remake as a timed exclusive. I just have to wonder if Microsoft is going to start to feel like pressured to start doing that more. My only hope is, you know, I like getting like Star Wars games. I like getting Marvel games, but I hope that it doesn't get to a point where, and we're going to talk about this a little bit later on with another game announcement that happened at the Game Awards. I hope it doesn't get to a point where it's just becoming, if it isn't already, like way oversaturated, where it's like, okay, developers really need to start making like more original games, more new IP, because we're getting to a point where everything's becoming superheroes, licensed games. You know what I mean? Hopefully it doesn't get out of respect. Hopefully, I just read that word. Hopefully it doesn't get out of respect. I just read the word respect while talking. Hopefully it doesn't get out of hand. This is what happens when you look at a chat while you're speaking. You'll just start saying words. It can be dangerous. It can be very dangerous. But where's that message that I was reading? Saying it's because I read what Hector said. Hector said, "Gotta respect MBG for not censoring the chat. I actually hate not allowing people to express themselves, no matter if we disagree." Yeah, I mean, there has to be a certain tolerance level. Like, I have no problem whatsoever with people disagreeing or getting even a little bit heated with their arguments. But when people start to get like nasty, you know, and just getting to that level, we all know what level I'm talking about. That's the only time I'm like, just, we don't need that. You know, it doesn't need to be toxic. Yeah, basically what Devil Shooter said, don't spam and don't insult people. That's pretty much it. Pretty simple. Mike McCarthy 88, you're saying monopoly laws pretty much prevent publishers being bought without approval. So I doubt EA, Activision, Square Enix, WB ever being bought. Yeah, I don't think it's likely either. I think that once Microsoft purchased Bethesda, it kind of opened the floodgates in the minds of a lot of people where, you know, it's like, well, who's going to be bought next? And it's like, well, this might be just a one-off thing because it doesn't really happen ever. This is like kind of the first time something like this has happened. So it's likely to not happen again. So I do think you're right about that. Kevin Reavers, you're saying, don't forget Quantic Dream is still an indie dev. Plus, they, like Ubisoft, had some management sexism kerfluffles. It's weird to read it in that order. Sexism kerfluffles, as you put it. This just may be a brand rebuild. Plus, none of their games have been profitable. Yeah, I mean, Quantic Dream, they certainly have had some issues over the past couple of years. And it's interesting that they were able to score a Star Wars game that is seemingly going to be this big, you know? But I think that if they can get their stuff together within their studio, which I'm sure they're going to have to, because as we read, apparently they're having trouble hiring people. Like, people don't want to work for the studio. So in order to get people to want to work at your studio, you're going to have to change your, you know, certain aspects of it to make it, you know, less toxic. And I think that they're going to have to do that to hire enough people to actually make this game become a reality. And I think that they are respected with the games that they've made. They've made some really good games. Profitability aside, people really like Quantic Dreams games. People love Detroit Become Human. So I think people are excited. I think people are excited and willing to give them a chance to see what they could do with an action-oriented Star Wars game. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. How to speedrun. You're saying a Chinese company called NetEase secured a minority investment from Quantic Dream, which made them independent. That's why they are no longer PlayStation exclusive. Okay, that definitely explains it. Yeah, I think a lot of people were surprised that Sony didn't try to go after Quantic Dream more, but I think that might be why. I think it might be because Sony would have, because Quantic Dream would have fit great underneath Sony, but if their studio, their culture is just not where it should be, and it's not in line with Sony's studios and their culture, then that would explain why they just decided to distance themselves. But that does make sense. How to speedrun. Crispy, you're saying Microsoft licensed Pirates of the Caribbean. Yeah, that's true, actually. They did that for Sea of Thieves, I believe, which was pretty cool. I was surprised to see that. But it makes a lot of sense, right? I guess I wasn't that surprised. Now that I think about it, it makes total sense. But you're right. Microsoft is doing their own stuff too, just in a different way. And then Aces, you're saying KOTOR Remake has been compromised. Yeah, it may have been. It may have been, yeah. We are going to have to see. I'm not going to say anything definitively yet. I'm going to have to see what comes of it. I do know what you're referring to, and yeah, it's definitely concerning, but I try not to dive too deep into that. What I try to look at is the final product, like the result. Like, show me what it is that you're trying to sell me, and I'll let you know if I'm interested in it or not. And that's how I try to leave it, But I do know what you're referring to, Aces. But yeah, so that's the first game that really kind of caught my eye, where I'm like, okay, this is very interesting. Can't wait to see more of it, although it's very likely it's going to be a while. But the next game that was shown off that I was surprised about for two reasons. A AAA Wonder Woman game being developed by Monolith. This was surprising for two reasons. The first reason being that I wasn't expecting to see a Wonder Woman game revealed. But I was also surprised at just how ridiculously short the announcement of this game was. I feel like, I don't know, I guess it is comparable to the way Sony announced Wolverine, but with Sony announcing Wolverine, at least, I don't know, there was a little bit more, there was more to it. There was more going on in that short minute-long trailer. But that's how these reveals go, you know what I mean? Like, they're so far out, they're just beginning development, that this is how they have to do it. They have to tease like a minute-long CG trailer. I just feel like it's basically Monolith saying, we're making a AAA Wonder Woman game. But some of the interesting details about this game is it's going to be an open world game, which I feel like for a lot of people, that's going to actually make them sigh. I think a lot of people are getting tired of open world games. Like, I feel like there are people who actually were excited for this Wonder Woman game, and then when they hear it's going to be open world, they're like, I'm a lot less interested in it. But one of the more interesting things about it, they did say it's going to be an original story, by the way, so that's good. It sounds like they're going like the Spider-Man route. One of the more interesting things about it is they are going to be using the Nemesis system, which, for those who don't know, the Nemesis system is something that I think that it's exclusive to WB Games. I think WB Games actually patented the Nemesis system, which this is something we saw Sony do recently. They patented a system from Death Stranding. I just want to make it clear right now, being able to patent gameplay mechanics is dumb and should not happen. And it's ridiculous that any company is allowed to do that. I don't blame the company for doing them. Because if the company is allowed to patent a system, they're going to, you know, but they should not be allowed to. You know what I mean? It's like, it's one of those things where it's like, if they're allowed to do it, they're going to do it. I'm baffled that this is allowed to happen, you know, because the Nemesis system is a really cool system that it was in the Lord of the Rings games, the Shadow of War and what was the other one? I know that there was a second one, or maybe Shadow of War was the second one. I get the names confused, but the, Shadow of War game, Lord of the Rings games. I'm waiting for somebody to correct me in the chat. But these were the games where the Nemesis system was Shadow of Mordor. There we go. Yeah, Shadow of War and Shadow of Mordor. These were the games that first utilized the Nemesis system, and it really made these games stand out because it was the Nemesis system, for those who don't know, is basically like you go throughout the world and you encounter enemies, and there are like levels of enemies, like ranking systems, like this enemy is placed here within the hierarchy, and this is their weaknesses, these are their strengths, but you learn their weaknesses and their strengths by encountering them, and they remember you, and you learn more about them, and it just creates a more like personal, interconnected, I guess, experience with fighting enemies. And it is interesting. Like, it's an original and a unique mechanic, but apparently it's exclusive to WB games. But, it's nice to see that we'll be able to see it in a different game. So Wonder Woman is going to be utilizing that. And so I'm interested, obviously. Like, I'm not a big fan of Wonder Woman. I have no problem with Wonder Woman. I'm just not haven't really ever been into the character too much outside of like the Justice League. So I'm definitely fascinated. I'm going to be paying attention to this, and there's no telling when we're going to see more. I did see somebody say that there were no platforms announced for a game like Wonder Woman, and some people were thinking maybe it's going to be exclusive to one platform. I'm going to say that that's not the case, mainly because I feel like if that was something that was like a deal that was struck, they would have announced that with the actual game announcement. Kind of like KOTOR, you know how like Sony was like, hey, KOTOR remake is a PlayStation exclusive. That's something that they want to flex and make people aware of. So I'm going to say no, it's not going to be exclusive. Hold on one second here, guys. I got my Warm Wishes holiday mug here. It's my tea, because today I'm actually drinking tea instead of coffee, mainly for my throat. I think that the colder weather, I don't know, it puts more of a strain on my throat. It's good stuff. Good stuff. Gotta take a little break here for a second, Warm wishes, MBG, Merry Christmas. Yeah, warm wishes to everybody out there, everybody listening. But yeah, so the Wonder Woman game, where's the rant juice? Yeah, no rant juice today, man. No rant juice today. So let me get to these super chats real quick. Primal Plasma, member for 9 months, Greatness awaits. Thank you, man. Saying the next gen console war was successful. Microsoft listened and got its act together. Now we have 2 decent next gen consoles. Yeah, I mean, look, there are 2 aspects to the console war. There is the positive aspect, which in my opinion is you're basically talking about competition, and you want there to be more competition so we can get better results from anybody who is involved in that competition. Then there's the bad side of it, which you already know, where people just go off the rails and it becomes toxic, and we want to keep away from that. We want to get away from that because that's not healthy at all, and it's not good for anything. Darkborn, you're saying Monolith said the Nemesis system will be in full play with new features for Wonder Woman. That's going to be really interesting. I wonder how it'll work. I'm really interested in that as well. Like, to me, that's probably the most interesting aspect of this Wonder Woman announcement. The idea of getting a AAA Wonder Woman game in and of itself is not that surprising. Just like pretty much getting any type of superhero game at this point is not surprising. But the fact that they will have this unique system that will only be in this game, that could lead to some very interesting results. Okay, Kapapa, you're saying I would like to see more genuinely new IPs. Yeah, so that's one thing I did want to mention as well. It just seems like people are starting to get fatigued with the amount of games that are superhero games, games based off of this, games based off of that. Like, it just feels like when it comes to specifically AAA games, we're getting less and less of that. And it's kind of understandable to an extent, mainly because they're so risky. At this point, we're starting to see not AAA, but higher quality games. I don't know if they could be called AAA, but bigger games or even medium-sized games that are original and new, but they're from, kind of unknown studios, indie studios, up and coming studios. That's kind of where you see more of the new IP, but that's where I feel like I don't expect WB to like really be the, I just don't expect new IP that often. And frankly, when I do expect it mainly in the AAA space to come from Sony. Or at this point, maybe Microsoft with the amount of cash that Microsoft can throw at their studios. So, but that's what I expect. But I do agree. Okay, Kapapa, we do need to see more. So, Green Owl Gill, you're saying I never got why studios announce games so early. Yeah, I'm not sure either. I mean, I don't know. I guess it's just to get people excited for it temporarily, like just get it in people's minds, like, hey, we're working on this, you know? But I do agree, like, I feel like we always sit here and we ask for Sony to deliver more games, to announce more games, but in reality, it's like, should they? Do they need to? Like, if most of these games are 2+ years away, should they actually announce them? And I kind of realize when I ask myself that question, the answer is no, they shouldn't. I wouldn't mind if they did, but there's no real reason for them to do so. We'll talk more about that later. Josh, you're saying next gen Nemesis system. Can't wait to see this. Can't see this game being bad. Sorry, almost read that wrong. You're saying can't see this game being bad. Yeah, I don't think it'll be bad. I think that this Wonder Woman game from Monolith is a talented studio. I think it's going to be pretty good. And it's interesting because it's like, how will it compare to Spider-Man? How will it compare to the Arkham games? So we'll see. Another game that was revealed during the showcase or the Video Game Awards that I want to talk about because I actually think it looks really good. And the reveal of this game is coming at a particularly interesting time. The studio is called Embark, and this studio is comprised of former DICE developers who were known for the Battlefield games, as well as the Star Wars Battlefront games. They revealed a game called Arc Raiders, which is a free-to-play, third-person co-op shooter that looks like it's taking place on these planets. I don't know if there's different planets. I think there is, where you're fighting these robots, and it looks really good. It's set to release sometime in 2022. Now, this is the kind of stuff that I do like to see. And I know that the idea of it being multiplayer and co-op and a shooter, I know that to a lot of people listening to this are probably like, oh, I'm not very interested. But what I do like at the very least is this is a AAA new IP. At least it seems AAA to me. And they did show some gameplay within this trailer, and it looks really good. It looks promising. You can definitely tell that these developers worked on the Battlefront games. So yeah, I'm interested. There's not really much else to say about it because we don't know much about it, but it being free to play, we'll see. We'll see what they can do. I'm definitely going to be paying attention. Let me see here. The next game. So I'll just mention this briefly. I'm not going to talk about it long because we already kind of did, but we saw some new Horizon Forbidden West gameplay. This was one of the ways that Sony did show up at the Video Game Awards. They showed a minute-long trailer, and I think, just to be brief with this, I think that minute-long trailer did a great job in just showing what people like about PlayStation. Like, I will admit, Sony was very, very conservative at the Game Awards. They were, barely there. Let's just be honest. Sony was barely at the Game Awards. But what I like is that Sony's aware that if we're going to be there at all, let's make it count. And they did that. I think they did that. They, they did something that I did expect, which is here's a new trailer for Horizon Forbidden West, but they did it in such a great way where it's like, here's just a minute long cut, really, really great edited cut of just raw gameplay that's showing different move sets. You're saying it was made by Sunhai. I don't know how you say his name, but Sunny Legend. Yeah, I know him on Twitter. Actually, I've seen him on Twitter. Dude. If that's true, man, Sony, make sure you're paying that man good, because he is he's doing some really good work for Sony. He really is. That trailer was incredible, and I think it's just like one of the best trailers ever put out by Sony, man. I was like so impressed by that. It showed all the different biomes, all the different environments, the diversity of the areas of the machines. There was that big snake machine, which I was like, yo, what is that? That is crazy. That is awesome. And different costumes with Aloy. So very good. It was short but sweet, and I think it did I think it did exactly what it needed to do. Show some awesome gameplay, which I appreciated. So it was nice to see Horizon there. Not surprising, was nice. Really enjoyed that. I think at this point I will add this last thing. I don't think I need to see any more about Horizon. Obviously, they're gonna continue to release some type of trailers and some stuff building up to the launch, but I'm just as sold as a person can be on buying a video game with Horizon Forbidden West. So, Rory Grimshaw, you're saying games are announced early to gain investor interest. Yeah, that's true. That's true. I wasn't even thinking about that when I was asked that question. That is why games are announced so early. We always got to remember that there is investor interest. So, let me see here, though. After that, so there was a new Elden Ring trailer, and I want to say that one of the best parts of the Game Awards was when Jeff Keighley got the pot. What's the name of that pot? I know it has a name. Isn't there a name for this character or these characters? But the pot with arms came up on stage, and that was really funny. I gotta admit, like, that was a really cool moment at the Game Awards where I'm like, okay, that was good. That was good. And the trailer was really cool too. It makes sense that they decided to show a story trailer, like a lore trailer, right? It's in line with From Software. And I watched it, and I watched, who is it? Vadi Vidya, I think that's his name. He did a breakdown of that trailer, and it's like, yeah, dude, this is gonna be amazing. You can tell that they wanted to kind of show off some of the you're saying Hassan was in the pot. Yeah, I don't think so, but that's funny, dude. Hassan is the name of the pot. That's funny. That's funny. But yeah, Fatty Vidya. No, I think his name is Vadi. Vadi Vidya? You guys know who I'm talking about. He's like the most well-known Souls YouTuber. He covers it really well, really high quality content. Really enjoy it. So he did a breakdown of the newest Elden Ring lore trailer and story trailer, and man, it's really good. Like my Elden Ring is right up there with Horizon Forbidden West, where I'm sold on the game. I know they're gonna keep marketing it, but I'm ready to go, day one. So it was nice to see that there. Leo Jimmy, you're saying something wrong with me. Forspoken and Horizon impressed me more than the Matrix demo. No, I don't think there's anything wrong with you, Leo. When we talk about the Matrix Awakens, we do need to acknowledge that not everybody was feeling as impressed. I do think that sometimes I know I fall victim to this. I don't know if victim's the right word, but it's just the phrase that comes to mind. And I think everybody is susceptible to it, where you kind of buy into something a little bit too much. Like, it's like when you see something that's really, really great and maybe even awesome, but you talk about it as if like, it's the next best thing since sliced bread, when in reality it's like it was never going to be that good. I do that, and I'm guilty of that, and I try not to live in that hyperbolic mindset anymore, because I just don't think it's good. But I can understand, like, when I'm playing that, we'll get into it, but I can completely understand why you're saying a game like Horizon or even Forspoken, it just speaks to you more. And honestly, it could be the art style. I think that one thing that Horizon and even a game like Forspoken, one thing that just honestly a lot of different games continue to prove is, yeah, graphics and photorealism and all these things are important, how sharp a game looks, but art style is probably more important than anything else. It truly is. So, I feel like that's probably why you're feeling that way, honestly, Leo. Josh, you're saying Hogwarts dev Avalanche their best game is Toy Story 3. Is that true? That's surprising if true. I have a lot of hope for Hogwarts. We'll talk about Hogwarts later because that was a no-show. And I think a lot of people were feeling disappointed. I think a lot of people were hoping that it was going to be there. By the way, guys, if you could do me a favor, hit that like button for me. We're about an hour and 11 minutes into the podcast. We're already over 300 likes. Liking the podcast helps notify the YouTube algorithm that they should send this podcast out to new people who might be interested in it. So hit that like button for me. The next game in line here, we got a new Forspoken gameplay trailer and a release date. Now, I want to talk about this briefly because it's interesting. I made a video yesterday talking about Forspoken, and Forspoken is an interesting one because I'm noticing that not everybody is sold on it yet. There are some people who are saying that they feel like the facial animations need some improvement. Some people are feeling a bit annoyed that this is going to be a $70 game. They're not upset that it's $70. We already know that PS5 exclusives will be $70, but they're already talking about premium DLC, and it's always a little bit jarring when the game isn't out yet and they're talking about DLC. But I think it depends on how you look at it, because if you get upset that they're talking about DLC, I think the assumption is that, oh, well, this game isn't going to have enough content to justify the $70 price tag. So that's really annoying, And I think that, yeah, that's certainly a possibility. But I also kind of feel like you can look at it from the other way, where it's like, if you assume that you're going to get more than enough with the $70 purchase and putting the DLC aside, the DLC is going to be something prequel related. So it's going to give you like, a prequel story. I think it's nice that they're showing that they're going to continue to support the game, and I have no problem with premium DLC. I'm assuming that when I buy and play Forspoken, I'm going to get my money's worth, and there's going to be a lot of content there. And I got to be honest, I really do like what I'm seeing with Forspoken so far. The gameplay looks really good. The environments look really good. The story and the characters and the writing, these are all things that I feel I'm going to have to see more of. I'm feeling good about it. Maybe not good. I'm feeling okay about it. I'm feeling decent. But I really need to kind of get a better idea of, like, is this going to be a story that I'm actually interested in, something that I think really speaks to me, or is it going to be something that by the time I'm like halfway through it, I'm like, okay, I'm only enjoying this game for the gameplay and the visuals and the story. I couldn't care less. I think that the enemies, like, what they showed in the latest trailer, showing the enemies, just the boss, I'm assuming they're boss battles that you're going to be encountering. These are the things that I'm feeling sold on so far. And the environment, the magic, the spells, all this stuff, it looks really good. And so I think that Forspoken is looking promising. It's getting the most important thing right for me, which is the gameplay. Like, if Forspoken's gameplay didn't look that good to me, I feel like my interest in it would plummet dramatically. But it does look really good. It actually reminded me of Infamous a bit with some of the stuff I was seeing. So yeah, I like it. I like what I'm seeing so far. I'm not as high on it as I feel like I could be. I still need to kind of see more of what the story is going to be like. Some of the dialogue is a little, Um, I feel like it's going to be something that you know, I'm going to play for sure. Like I'm sold on the game, but I'm hoping that the story will end up being better than what I'm thinking it will be currently. So, all right. But yeah, guys, how are you guys feeling about Forspoken? Because I saw that this was a title that had people more divided than I expected them to be. So I'm curious to see what you guys say about that. Uh, Let me see. Josh, again, you're saying look up Avalanche Software's games, man. Not good. Yeah, I guess I just didn't think about it, man. I'm gonna be honest. I haven't really looked into Avalanche's history or their past game development. So maybe I should. I don't know. There are some very high expectations for Hogwarts Legacy, man. Like, people are expecting this game to be like a banger of a game. And I don't blame them, because when you look at the first trailer that they put out, I mean, how could you not see that as a banger of a game based off of what they're showing? But I think it's one of these situations where it could go south. It could go south depending on what they show next. So we'll have to see about that. Aces, you're saying I was underwhelmed by the Matrix experience. I wanted to be wowed with my jaw dropping, but it was an on rails game, and that a PS Pro can do. Not excited about UE5 anymore. Well, there's something I do have to tell you, Aces. You're saying that, well, from a gameplay perspective, yes, absolutely. What was achieved with the Matrix Awakens Unreal Engine experience can be achieved for sure on the PS4 Pro. But graphically speaking, and everything that was going on, that could not run on the PS4 Pro. Regardless of how impressed you were or were not, what you were seeing visually and just the open world itself, that could not be achieved at that level of fidelity on a PS4 Pro. That was kind of the point of it. But we'll get into that soon, Aces. We're going to talk about that next. Let me continue down my list here. So we got our first look at Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League gameplay. And, this is interesting to me because I'm not really a fan of the Suicide Squad. I'm a fan of Rocksteady for sure. Not really a fan of Suicide Squad. I was already feeling very trepidatious about this game, considering how long it's been in development, considering I don't have much interest in Suicide Squad at all. And I saw the gameplay and I'm like, okay, I'm not sold on it. I'm going to be honest. Like, I'm not sold on Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. I'm like 70%, maybe 65 to 70% sold on it. Like, there's a higher chance and I'm more likely to buy it than not based off of this, mainly because I like the idea of, like, you're actually fighting the Justice League. You're actually going after them one by one and trying to kill them. That to me is the most interesting aspect. The gameplay didn't look like anything, it didn't look like anything special. But then again, it is a co-op driven game, which that appeals to me. I do like co-op games. I like games that you can play with your friends online like this, but I don't know. I did get some like Sunset Overdrive vibes from it though, which was interesting. I don't know. I guess I just feel like what we're seeing with the Suicide Squad game is just so far removed from what we got with the Arkham games. And I understand that it's like, well, we don't want to see, well, I'm assuming most of us don't want to see Rocksteady make another Batman game. We want to see Rocksteady try something else, but it's not doing it for me so far. It doesn't look bad. Like, I don't think it looks bad. I don't really like the Suicide Squad that much. I just don't. But I'm going to have to see more. I'm going to have to see more. Maybe I have to go back and watch it again. I just feel like it's strange to me that we went from single player, awesome, like, narrative driven Batman games, like the best Batman games we ever got from Rocksteady, to now we're going to uh, you know, seemingly a service. I'm assuming it's going to be a live service game. It might not be. Maybe I'm making an assumption. I don't know if they confirmed that or not. But what could be a live service co-op, um, you know, over the top game. It just doesn't feel right. But at the same time, I am also the same person who's excited for Naughty Dog's multiplayer game. So I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence about it with this. I want to see more of it. I gotta see more of it to get a better feel for what this game's really gonna be like. I'm actually more excited for Gotham Knights. Is that the game that's coming out? I assume before the Suicide Squad game. But one of the reasons for that is because the studio that's developing it's like, okay, I could see them doing that. I'm just surprised. After all this time, I'm just surprised that this is what we're getting from Rocksteady. I didn't expect that, considering there's so many other heroes or villains that they could have made like a story around. It's like, we're doing Suicide Squad again? I don't know. Maybe I'm being overly negative. If you're excited for it, I'm not saying you shouldn't be. This is just my opinion. I'll have to see. I'll have to see. I also want it to be known that while I am excited for Naughty Dog's multiplayer game, just because it's fair, I'm also still a little bit nervous about it. I'm not fully convinced that Naughty Dog can nail a multiplayer only game. And I know not automatically there are going to be a lot of people who are not going to buy Naughty Dog's multiplayer game because that's just not what they buy Naughty Dog games for. It's not for the multiplayer. I just want to make it known that I'm also still a little bit nervous about how that could turn out. So just to keep things fair and make it known. PlayStation Pete, you're saying, is Forspoken a Dark Souls game? Have you platinumed Guardians of the Galaxy? Forspoken, it doesn't look like a Souls game. I mean, there are like certain, I think, aspects like with the creatures and the some of the creatures that you're facing and maybe the environments that are reminiscent of Dark Souls for sure. But the combat looks very different. The combat looks more in line with something like Infamous from what I've seen. So yeah, I don't think we could classify it as a Souls game. But there are certain aspects of it that could remind you of it. Have I platinum Guardians of the Galaxy? No, to be honest, I've been having trouble like finding the time to sit, not the time, but like for me when I go to play single player story driven games, I have to be in the right mindset. I've been making my way like painfully slow through Guardians of the Galaxy. I've been trying to find more time to play it and enjoy it, but I think I have like 4 hours into it so far, but I really, really like it. Like it's really growing on me. At first, I was like, okay, let's see if this is as good as everybody's making it sound. I feel like I'm not going to enjoy it as much as everybody. Now that I'm like 4 hours into it, I'm like, okay, I'm really starting to see what it is that people like about this, and I'm getting it, I'm gelling with it. But thank you for asking, PlayStation Pete. Okay, so next up in line here we have A Plague Tale Requiem. Requiem? I hate that word. First gameplay trailer. Don't have too much to say about this other than I thought it looked really good. I was actually surprised. I'm like, this game looks like it's going to be great, actually. And I have yet to play the first Plague Tale game. I've been recommended by multiple people to play it. Apparently it's very, very good. And I have to say, looking at the sequel, it's like, yeah, this looks very impressive. So I thought at first it was an Xbox exclusive, but then I learned it's actually going to release day one on Game Pass, which is definitely good for anybody who subscribed to that. But I was relieved to see, okay, it's actually going to be on PlayStation 5 because that's where I would want to play it. And yeah, and I think that we got that recently for PlayStation Plus not that long ago. So I have to play it at some point. I've been having a hard time finding the time to play games lately. So I hope that changes soon because there are definitely things I want to play. Green Al Gill, you're saying, I'm excited to see what Avalanche can really do with Hogwarts, especially with how well they handled good Magic type games like Disney Infinity. Did they make Disney Infinity? That's surprising. I didn't know that. Yeah, I think it's going to be good, man. Like, I'm not even a Harry Potter fan, really, but even me, like, I'm like looking at this, I'm like, this looks like the dream Harry Potter game. It does. Like, and I think that's why people are so excited for Hogwarts Legacy, because they look at it like, this is the dream. Like when you imagine like your dream Harry Potter game or a game based in that universe, that's the game. And so I hope they don't mess it up. I hope they nail it. KD, you're saying Plague's Tale is kind of bad. LOL, couldn't get into it. Really? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm not. I don't. I know it's very narrative heavy, and I heard it's dark. And so, from a gameplay perspective, I don't know much about it other than I know there's a lot of like stealth segments and whatnot. So I have to give it a shot. I'll have to give it a shot for myself. Okay, let me see here. Next up, we have this one was interesting, but I don't know that many people are excited for it. I'm not overly excited for it. Like I think it's piqued my interest, but I'm also ready for this game to be very, very, very bad. That is the asymmetric Texas Chainsaw Massacre multiplayer game that was announced. I think Sumo Digital's working on it with another studio. I mean, look, I played a lot of Dead by Daylight. I really enjoyed my time with Dead by Daylight, and Leatherface is one of the characters you can play in Dead by Daylight. But I imagine that this is going to be more fine-tuned. So I'm open to seeing more of this game and seeing what it's going to be like. You know, Texas Chainsaw Massacre's always been, one of like top tier horror movies. Just like that horror movie fun where it's like, yeah, this is disturbing and creepy and just something to watch. But I've always enjoyed those movies when I've seen them, and by enjoy I mean they've always disturbed me. And it's done a good job in that. So the idea of playing a game that's dedicated to that, I'm open to it. I'm open to seeing what this is going to be like. So I see somebody saying, I wonder where Ash versus Evil Dead was. Yeah, the Evil Dead game, that game looks really good, actually. It looks very promising. And that's coming out in February as well with everything else. I'm surprised we didn't see more of it, but I'm looking forward to that. Next up, we have Evil West. This is kind of like a third-person shooter game, but it looks like it's very inspired by Doom. So it almost looks like a third-person Doom that has like a Western theme. Looks very interesting. I saw a lot of people saying that they thought this looked great, and I went back and rewatched the trailer, and I'm like, actually, this does look pretty fun. Mainly because, like, it's just a random game that just looks like, yeah, this actually looks like something I would play, and it could be fun. So yeah, I'm interested to hear more about that and learn more about it. Next up, we have the first, I'll save this one for last because I'll do this one. So Alan Wake 2, I don't know how many of you watched my video that I put out last night. Go watch it if you haven't. It's a good video, I think. A lot of good stuff we talked about, but Alan Wake 2 sounds like a dream game. Okay, so I have not played Alan Wake 1. I don't know if I'm going to anytime soon because I have all these other games to play. Alan Wake Remastered just came out. I've heard nothing but good things about Alan Wake, but what Remedy is saying about Alan Wake 2 has me genuinely thoroughly excited because they're saying that they're shifting from action horror to survival horror. So survival horror is going to be at the heart of Alan Wake 2, and we don't get many AAA survival horror games. We pretty much don't get any outside of Resident Evil, right? And it just seems like it's so hard to find a good, high-quality AAA survival horror game. So the fact that they're doing that has me very excited. There's some other things that we learned about it. It's going to be M-rated. It's going to be very psychological, very layered. It's going to be dark, and it's going to be next gen only. They're shooting for sometime in 2023, and they say it's going to be the best looking game that Remedy's ever made. Now, Remedy makes some very good looking games. So this was a game where I'm like, okay, I didn't think that when Alan Wake 2 was announced, I would be this excited for it based off of what they're saying. But after listening to Sam Lake talk about it, I'm like, okay, this is on my radar. Like, this is actually high up on my list where I cannot see this. Evil Within. Oh, yeah, dude. So, yeah, that's true. Evil Within 1 and 2, very underrated games, man. Like, games that, especially the second one, the second Evil Within was very good. Like, these are underrated games. And if there's one game that I would like to see Xbox produce now that they have Bethesda is Evil Within 3. That would be great. I think that would be a great game for Microsoft to have like a triple A survival horror game, that can launch in the Game Pass and they can use to say, look at the diversity of our lineup. I think that that's something they should absolutely try to greenlight. That's why I was like, Ghostwire Tokyo looks interesting to me, but I was kind of disappointed. Like, wait, this is Tango Gameworks' next game. What's going to be ironic is PlayStation fans are going to get Ghostwire Tokyo from Tango Gameworks, and then after that, they're going to make the Evil Within 3, and that's going to be an Xbox Game Pass exclusive. So it would work that way. But yeah, dude, Alan Wake 2, absolutely on my radar. And here are the final two that I want to talk about. So the first thing I'm going to talk about it briefly. I know that there are some people who want me to dive into it. I'm not diving into it. I'm not putting on the tinfoil hat. I'm not doing any of that, but I at least have to mention the very obvious troll or tease that happened during the Game Awards, where there were multiple references to Silent Hill, and it is one of these situations where each person is going to look at what's being said or listen to what's being said and the way it's being presented, and they're going to come to one of two conclusions. They're going to either say, get the clown costume. You know what? I should have had it ready to go. I don't have it here in the room with me, but I don't think the clown costume is going to be necessary for this, because as I said, I'm not. Don't worry, guys, relax. I'm not going down the rabbit hole. You don't have to worry. But this is one of those situations where people are going to walk away from it, where they're going to say to themselves, okay, that was a blatant, clear tease of something that's going to happen. And this is their way of letting us know that it's happening. We're just not ready to announce it. Or they're going to walk away from it saying, wow, this has become such a prevalent thing with the gaming awards, or not gaming awards, with gaming showcases and shows. Like every show, like Silent Hill's going to be here. Silent Hill's going to be here. It's such a meme that people like Del Toro and Kojima and Jeff Keighley, they're all in on it, and they're all just trying to, tease people and troll them. The thing is, if you were to ask me what I think, truthfully, like in all seriousness, like, do I think it's actually a tease for something that's going to come eventually, or do I think that they're just messing with us? I do think it's a tease. And the only reason I say that is because it just seems kind of messed up. But then again, I mean, if they want to go down this path, they can. It just seems kind of messed up that they would actually be willing to be this on the nose with their teases, or their trolls, I should say, just to upset fans. I mean, it does make for some entertainment, for some good entertainment, that's for sure. But I do want to read one single tweet that Jeff Keighley put out yesterday, precisely 22 hours ago, that when I read this, I was legitimately just like, did you ever see the meme of that I guess it's a basketball coach, where he just is looking at like he's just stunned. Like he just can't believe what he's seeing or witnessing. I came across this tweet from Jeff Keighley. The first tweet says, still blown away by the Matrix Awakens demo. Full-on next-generation gameplay for free. Epic outdid itself here. I want to do more of this in the future. Announce, give you something to play at home right away, connecting the show and gameplay. This is the future. And so I read that and I'm like, yeah, that was pretty cool, man. I like that. I like that. Didn't think much of it. Then the tweet that he put below it. When Hideo created PT, playable teaser, we spoke a lot about this as a new potential trend. With cloud technology, imagine if you one day could play the Game Awards trailers as they happen, even short 5 to 10 minute gameplay sequences. We'll get there one day. And I'm just like, you gotta be kidding me, Jeff. You gotta be kidding me, bro. Why are you talking about PT? Why are you talking about Hideo Kojima? Why are you talking about what sounds like an application that you would open up to play demos live as they're happening and experience them? Why are you doing this, Jeff? So look, I'm not going down the rabbit hole. All I'm gonna say, you're getting really close to that rabbit hole. I know. I'm hovering around it. I'm hovering around the rabbit hole. But surely, can you at the very least agree with me that this is becoming too much? This is becoming a bit much now, people. Okay? Where I am truly getting to a point where even if this is all leading to something, I'm just going to feel like, why? Why did you put me through this? Why did it have to be this excruciating? It is entertaining though. I read that I read this tweet from Jeff and I'm like, am I crazy for thinking that the abandoned real-time experience app, that's the first thing that pops into my mind with a playable prologue coming in Q1 of 2022? I'm reading Jeff's tweet and I'm like, why is that the first thing that comes to my mind? I don't want that to be the first thing that comes to my mind, but it is. And so I just simply say to myself, okay. Okay. Let me see. We have 4X Silver. You're saying, I would not want to play any games lower than 60 frames per second, at least not until we have full VRR support. Maybe 40 to 60 FPS is tolerable. Main issue is screen tearing and large variation of frame rates. Opinion. I agree. I'm of the mindset that I either want to play a locked 30 frames per second or a hopefully locked 60 frames per second. I'm believe it or not, I'm playing Guardians of the Galaxy at 30 frames, and I didn't think I could do it. But I wanted that native 4K because it's either 1080p 60 FPS or native 4K 30 FPS. I'm like, you know what? I've been playing all my games at 60. Let me see if I can readjust to 30 for this one game because I like how sharp the image looks with native 4K. And believe it or not, after playing it for a while, at first I was like, oh man, this is painful. This is hard. I don't think I can do this. But I just stuck with it and my eyes adjusted and I'm like, yeah, I can play this at 30 FPS. So, but I would prefer I agree. Like, I don't want to have to play games at 30. I want like a native dynamic upscaled, whatever, 4K 60 FPS. Then we have Darkborn. You're saying on either end, maybe they're having trouble getting the license from Konami and are pressuring them along with a publisher to make Silent Hill. Yeah, so let me just wrap up this little Silent Hill segment because we have to talk about it. We have to acknowledge it. I truly believe that Guillermo del Toro, if you go back and you watch that, I honestly think that anybody who doesn't see that as a blatant tease is kind of delusional themselves. I know that this is coming from MBG, the most delusional Silent Hill, Metal Gear Solid fan out there, Kojima fan. I understand. But honestly, go look at just how unnecessary, out of nowhere, it doesn't make any sense for that to be a troll. It doesn't. However, there is always the possibility it is. I personally believe that it's a tease for something that's coming. And I just don't know when we're going to get it. What I do know is that I am getting to a point where I don't want to keep talking about it when there's nothing there. Like Jeff Keighley saying, oh, yeah, PT, me and Hideo, being able to play game demos through the cloud. Okay, cool, man. Cool. I'm in pain over here. I get it. And, I have Guillermo del Toro saying, oh, Silent Hill, someone should make a new one of those. I agree, Del Toro. I do agree. Somebody should make a new one of those. Somebody like, I don't know, like a AAA game developer. And then even before that, did you guys see the trailer for Please tell me if I'm saying the name of this game correctly, because I do not like the name of this game. Slitterhead? the new game from Boca Game Studio. The name of that game just does not roll off the tongue, does not sound like right to say that. It just sounds so weird. But yeah, I'm sure you guys noticed how in the very beginning they were like, from the original creator of Silent Hill, and they have to put Silent Hill in bold letters, making everybody think like, oh man. And then at the very end, Jeff Keighley says, yeah, the original creator didn't abandon his roots. It's like, dude, I'm either completely insane or you are like, what do you, why? Yeah, I died, dude. I just sunk in my chair like, bro, what is happening? Slitterhead. SH. Oh, yeah, that's true. SH. They both, yeah. I don't know how I feel about that game, though. It looks interesting. Definitely. It looks like it could be pretty scary. But, yeah. So, that's pretty much all there is, guys. It's one of these situations where it's either happening or it's not. And one thing that's made clear is that if it is happening, it's not ready yet. And we don't know when it's going to be ready. Hideo Kojima said that he would be at the Game Awards next year. Jeff Keighley's hosting Summer Game Fest again. And we have to assume, and we'll talk more about this later, that at some point over the course of next year, Sony's going to have an event of some kind. So, if there really is a AAA Silent Hill game being developed at Kojima Productions, or if it's not Kojima Productions, if Sony's doing something, I think that we will learn about it next year. And if we don't, again, I feel like I have to say this. It is, I do think it's important for me to acknowledge this, because the truth is, I did make a video earlier this week. I think it was on Friday. I made the video, and some people were getting upset because the video was just dedicated to me talking about the teases that we got with Silent Hill. And some people in the comments were getting upset because they're like, MBG, dude, you said you were going to stop talking about it. You said it was coming to an end. And you're right. I did say that. And so I just want it to be known that until we see something happen that is truly giving us something, okay? Something that isn't just an obscure tweet, something that isn't, what feels like a troll of, Del Toro saying, yeah, somebody should make a Silent Hill. Something that isn't a tweet of Jeff Keighley basically being like, okay, like, here's your abandoned app where you can play whatever. You know what I mean? Like, you're saying I clearly don't want to give it up. Well, that's the thing, is I'm not giving it up, because I truly do believe that this, to me, it's obvious. But what I'm realizing is it might not be that obvious to other people. All right. And I can't make them believe it's obvious. I can't make them see what I see, or maybe what some of you see. But what I'm just going to say this. If you watch the Game Awards, if you think that all of those references and teases and trolls were done just to mess with people, well, I think you're going to be proven wrong. Because at this point, I just can't figure out in my mind any reason why that would be done in such a way, unless it's to just basically mess. See, I want to add this too before I move on. I want to add this. This is incredible, the way this is being done, because we are watching. Like, when I was watching that stream live and I heard Del Toro say that after Kojima introduced his new movie, I knew in that moment, like, there it is. Like, that's it right there. And I can see it. Like, I can see the Matrix coding. I can see it. It's right there. I see it. But nobody else can. I can see it, though. Maybe other people can see it too. I had Neo vision, you know? But what I realized is that so many people are missing what's right there, you know? Like, so many people are like laughing and saying, oh, it's just a troll and it's never going to happen and leave it alone. And it's like, okay, you know what? I get it. And that's the genius of it. That is the genius of it. People may think I'm crazy for saying this, but there's a reason why Kojima was wearing that Matrix shirt right before he introduced Del Toro's new game. Or not game, sorry, new movie. And yes, it's because he's a big fan of The Matrix. I'm a big fan of The Matrix. That's something a lot of us have in common. We all love The Matrix. I'm very excited for the new movie. And, there was the whole Matrix Awakens thing. But there's a reason why he was wearing that shirt in particular with the red and blue pill. Okay? Kojima wants you to question what's real and what's not. And if you think about the way that this tease was constructed between Slitterhead, the introduction of this game with Silent Hill in bold letters, Jeff Keighley saying, oh, I'm glad that the original creator didn't abandon his roots. Kojima showing up just to say, hey guys, sorry I couldn't be there. I'll be there next year. Don't worry. Here's a new movie for my good friend. To then end it with Del Toro just out of nowhere. It had nothing to do. I need to emphasize this. I'm sorry, guys. I know I said I wasn't going to go down the rabbit hole, and I promise this is going to be brief. But I have to make my peace with this, okay? So I don't keep talking about it and thinking about it. I just want people to understand something about what Del Toro said, okay? Because that was pre-recorded. That was pre-recorded. That was not live. That was not Del Toro live on a stage just candidly saying that and like, haha, what a troll. It was pre-recorded. I need people to understand that this man's job was to announce the winner of Best Art Direction. Okay? Winner of Best Art Direction after his new horror movie was revealed. Or the trailer was shown during the Game Awards. He was introduced by Hideo Kojima. At no point in any reality where Silent Hill, a AAA Silent Hill game, at no point in any reality where that game doesn't exist, should that man have ever said that in that moment. In no reality. So I want you to understand that if you're somebody who is questioning whether this is actually real or not, congratulations. You are successfully breaking free of the Matrix. You're starting to realize that this is not actually what you think it is. Because if you're thinking that, oh, it's nothing, it's just a troll, it's not real, that's what they want you to think. Until you're red pilled. And when you're red pilled and you see it for what it is, you realize there's a lot more here. And so, sorry, I know I see somebody saying, how are we still on this topic? So I'm just going to end it and I'm going to move on. We're going to talk about some Hellblade 2. I'm just going to end it by saying that if I'm crazy, I've accepted that and I'm okay with that. But I truly do believe that this is still all an ARG. It's just going on. It's being put onto a new level where we are truly meant to question like what's actually real and what's not. Right now, it's on hold. I don't know what's going to happen next. I am under the assumption that nothing is happening anytime soon. Therefore, I'm not going to keep on this. I'm not going to keep going on, which is why I am ending it here. I am ending it here until something big happens. But I'm just making my peace by making it known. It is real. We are being messed with, and we are meant to take sides. We are meant to choose the blue pill or the red pill. I've chosen the red pill, and I see it for what it really is, and eventually everybody will too, and it's going to be a great day. However, it might be some time till we get there. Okay, but you want to see the clown costume? Hey, I never said the clown costume won't come back, so don't worry. Okay, with that being said, we are going to move on to the final game from the Game Awards that caught my interest. Follow the White Rabbit. Yeah. I love it, dude. You're saying LOL MVG if you want to talk about it and it makes you feel better to do it. No, I know. The thing is, I don't want to keep talking about it because there not only is there not much left to be said at this moment in time, but also because there's just so much else I have to talk about, you know, and we're already approaching the 2-hour mark. So, okay. One last thing here. You're saying, William, you're saying you've been Team Real since the beginning. Yeah. Just, stay tuned. Stay tuned. All right. Let me see. I have Tricky Turnip, member for 6 months. Greatness awaits. Thank you, man. You're saying it's killing me waiting for a reveal for Silent Hill. It's happening, but when? If I had to, I mean, I'm going to say it's going to be around E3 time next year. That's what I'm thinking. It could, I mean, it might not happen till the end of the year, but man, that's going to be a painful wait. So I'm going to say mid next year, around E3 time. Sir Holmes, you're saying, where's the multiplayer games? How many single player games do we need? I'm tired of playing Gran Turismo and The Last of Us multiplayer. Hashtag Red Pill. They're coming, man. They're coming. Don't worry. I think at Sony's next major event, I think we're going to see at least a few multiplayer games. At least a few. Josh, you're saying Silent Hill isn't hype at all. Who really cares? Well, that's the thing is like, I don't want to, that's another reason why I'm going to stop talking about it is because I don't want to make it seem like this, whatever future Silent Hill game we get, I don't want to make it sound like it's going to be the greatest game you ever play because it might not be. But I am confident that if we do get a AAA Silent Hill game with Sony's involvement and potentially Kojima, I am convinced it'll be a very good game at the very least. But I don't want to, I don't want to do that thing where it's like, I'm hyping up something that to a lot of people doesn't even exist, let alone like we don't even know what it's going to be or how good it's going to be, even if it does exist. So we just want to make it known that that's why I'm not going to keep going on about it as well. Okay, so the final game here, Hellblade 2 or Senua's Saga Hellblade 2. This was a game that we saw the first gameplay of. And, I have to say, I was quite surprised at the gameplay because when we finished watching the gameplay, I went back and I watched it again, the video on Xbox's YouTube channel. There's a few things that I'm thinking in my mind. First, I'm thinking the game looks very good. Like, nobody can deny that. Like, I almost gave in to that conversation where let's compare how Horizon Forbidden West looks to Hellblade 2. And I did that. I did just that. But there's no reason to do that. And I realize this now. There's no reason to make a comparison. It's ridiculous to do so. There are some things that these games share, like in terms of the type of game, like third person, over the shoulder, whatever. But that's about it. You're talking completely different art styles. There's just no reason to compare it. If anything, honestly, a game like Hellblade 2, if you're going to make a comparison, if you feel the need to make a comparison, make the comparison to how does Hellblade compare to, say, like The Last of Us Part 2, right? Because they're both kind of, I don't say on rails, but they're not open world. They're both linear experiences to a certain extent. Although The Last of Us 2 has some wide linear areas. Or maybe compare it to like Uncharted. But I'm not here to make any comparisons because there's no need to. Sony has their games. They look good. Microsoft is producing some games that are starting to look really good. People, I think, are generally feeling pretty good about Hellblade 2. But I also see that there are a lot of people who feel the same way I do, where I saw the Hellblade 2 gameplay and I thought to myself, this looks really good. The atmosphere is perfect. Like that's the thing I really like about what Hellblade 2 is achieving is it's creating this dark, foreboding, just intense tone and it's nailing it. And that's something that was there with the first game. And it seems like they're really pushing that further with the second game. And I like, to me, that was the number one thing about Hellblade 2. And if there's anything that's going to make me pick up and play that game day one, it's going to be that. It's going to be just that dark, disturbing almost. And I like what we were seeing with that creature or that titan, whatever that was. That was so cool. Like, the demo was really, really cool. And I liked it. But the one thing that surprised me truly is I thought that, when we got to the section of the demo when she was throwing the spears and running, and I'm like, oh man, this is intense. And the acting was incredible. I liked it. Dude, it was so good. I thought that there was going to be more though. Like, I was waiting for that after the chase segment for it to break out into like a full blown combat, like 1 or 2 minute combat section where she's fighting this thing or fighting enemies or something, and it cut. And that left me disappointed only because I was like, wow, I like everything about this was looking so good. I need to see more. Like, I absolutely, and it feels honestly like a tease. It feels like a tease where, and the irony of it, and I think the reason why people are making comparisons is because not too long after that, we got a minute-long trailer of just raw cut, Horizon gameplay. So there was a little bit of a difference there, but that's the thing is like, there are people who were saying like, dude, that was the gameplay. Like, I know this. Yes, that was gameplay and it looked really good. Like, that's Unreal Engine 5. That's a next gen only game. Ninja Theory, one of the things that stood out about Hellblade was how good it looked at the time when it released. And yeah, they're continuing to push that. And I think that this is where Xbox is proving that they are learning. They are understanding that, they need to have, if you're going to create diverse games and you're going to have all these different games, then you need to at least have one of these games that looks, that can kind of match that tone a little bit, or that look, that gritty look of a lot of Sony's games, because that's what Sony's known for. And there are certainly some Xbox fans who want to see something like that from Microsoft. And there are also PlayStation fans who want to see Microsoft throw their hat in that ring. And I think that Ninja Theory is the studio to do that. I think that's what this proved. But one thing I do want to say that, it was fascinating to me because I wasn't expecting to be making this comparison. And this to me is absolutely a comparison that needs to be made. And it makes sense, is what this gameplay demo from Hellblade 2 reminded me of more than anything was the Order 1886. Now, to a lot of people, they may think that I'm actually insulting Hellblade 2 by saying that. I'm actually not insulting it at all. I really enjoyed the Order 1886. However, the main flaw of the Order 1886, and anybody who played it, I think, can agree with me, is that there just wasn't enough raw gameplay, and there weren't enough gameplay mechanics. It was a great game, and man, it's a shame that we're not going to get a sequel to it, but it needed to be, like, the gameplay itself needed to be more fleshed out. I see somebody saying that the hate for it was overblown. I agree. I think most of the hate came from the fact that it was so short, and it was a $60 game, more than anything. Yeah, I think that the length of the game really is what hurt it more than anything. The fact that they sold it at full price, but there was something amazing, like the graphics, the tone of the game, the cinematography, the scripted gameplay segments. Even though there were too many of them, were top notch. And when I see Hellblade 2, that's exactly what I see. Where I'm like, this game looks incredible. This game has some amazing scripted sequences here that are getting you immersed and into it. But the only question I have left with Hellblade 2 is, well, what's the raw gameplay going to look like? And how much did Ninja Theory improve that gameplay? How much did Ninja Theory add to the mechanics? You know what I'm saying? And I have no doubt. Like, the thing is I don't doubt that they didn't do some great things with it. I just need to see it. That's all. So, my opinion on Hellblade 2, because a lot of people were asking me, I think it looks great. I think that Ninja Theory is doing what they do best, where they're flexing their, their ability to really convey this dark tone and get you kind of like, grit, like, into it. The audio is great. but I just need to see more. And I think something else that came to my mind is I can't help but wonder when Hellblade 2 is going to release, because they're like, based off of that gameplay and based off of the fact that there was no release date given, I think it's still going to be like another year or two away. So they have plenty of time to show more and get people excited. And I'm putting a lot of faith in the Hellblade 2, because for me, I've been saying for a long time that the competition between PlayStation and Xbox is, we need to, like, I want to see Xbox take some notes from PlayStation Studios and make some, like, they have the money to do it, obviously, and they bought some studios. Ninja Theory's a studio that falls in this category. I want to see them deliver like an Uncharted level, a Last of Us level, a God of War level, type cinematic experience, and deliver the whole package. You know what I mean? So I have a lot of faith that Ninja Theory will do that. I was very impressed with what I saw, and I'm definitely going to be looking forward to seeing more. So as far as comparisons go, like, look, I realize now that I'm not comparing anything. If you were to ask me a simple question, which game are you more excited for currently? Come on, like, you're just setting me up for a trap. I'm going to say Horizon Forbidden West for multiple reasons. One, it's coming out sooner. Two, we've seen much more of it. Three, it's proven by now, based off of how much we've seen, that it's going to be an amazing game. You know what I mean? Like, ask me that same question when we're like a couple months away from the launch of Hellblade 2, and I'll tell you how excited I am for Hellblade 2. But I feel like people were asking me that question, like, which one do you think looks better? Which one are you more excited for? Like, come on. Like, there's no can we just say both look good? Can we just be excited for both? Can we just say that both look promising? And if you are more excited for one than the other, cool, man. Like, you do you know what I mean? And I'm just trying to get away from these arguments. And I realize sometimes I put myself in the middle of them, like, completely needlessly. And it's dumb for me to do that, because it's like, I don't need to tell anybody my opinion, like, I don't have to. I can if I want. If you ask me my opinion, I'll share it with you, but I just think that people should just be excited for both, enjoy what they want. And, I'm genuinely happy to see that. Like, look, one thing I said earlier in this podcast before I move on to the next topic is, I said, I think we can all agree that when you looked at even if you're, because, like, I saw a lot of people hating on the Hellblade 2 gameplay, and I get it. Like, I get that they're going to be PlayStation fans, where it's like, if it's not Sony, you're going to feel like, no, it's not good enough. And I get that. And I do agree that, like, we need to see some more Hellblade gameplay, but you can't take away what Microsoft is doing right here. Just like you can't take it away from PlayStation. And I want to say this because it's something that's so prominent and prevalent on my channel and on Twitter, and anytime we're talking about Xbox and PlayStation, or PlayStation and Xbox. And what you see is, you see a lot of Xbox fans, or fanboys, toxic Xbox fanboys. Gotta make that different. Gotta differentiate that. Toxic Xbox fanboys who constantly try to downplay and take away from PlayStation and our excitement for what we believe PlayStation does good and what they do well. Don't be that. Don't be the toxic PlayStation fan that looks at Hellblade 2 and says, that looks terrible, that looks garbage, that looks bad, because it objectively doesn't. You can say the gameplay looks uninteresting to me. That's fair. You can say I wasn't as impressed as others were. That's fair. But you can't take away what's actually there. Just like people tell me with Horizon Forbidden West, I see it more than a person should, where I see people leave messages or comments and are like, Horizon looks terrible, looks boring, it looks unimpressive. And I'm like, why are you lying? Just, like, why? That, like, everything you said is objectively wrong. But, everybody's going to have their opinions. What I'm trying to say is, don't don't let your opinions turn toxic. You see what I'm saying? Like, we can all have opinions. We can all even have strong opinions, but did you ever hear the saying, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. That is the key. You can have an opinion on anything. You can have the biggest contrasting opinion out there that goes totally against everybody else, but it's how you present your opinion. That's where you're going to find that it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And that's why I feel like I have to kind of go on this, I don't know if it's a rant, but this tangent, because, I've been waiting a long time to see Xbox show me a game where it's like, well, that ain't no Crackdown 3, that's for sure. That ain't no Sea of Thieves, that's for sure. No offense to Sea of Thieves, but you see what I'm saying? It's like, this is that moment. And I'm interested to see more. I'm excited to see more. Does that make me any less excited for Horizon? No. Does that mean I'm going to enjoy Horizon Forbidden West less? No. Does this mean that I'm going to be like, you know what? Maybe instead of playing Horizon Forbidden West on my PlayStation 5, I'm going to sell my PlayStation 5, I'm going to buy an Xbox Series X, and I'm going to anticipate Hellblade 2? No. That devil shooter, you're saying, MVG, people who hate on you will never show this. Oh, of course, dude. Everybody, dude, we already know haters are going to hate, or else they wouldn't be called haters, So yeah, all in all, I want to conclude this topic and move on to the next one. I'm going to get to these super chats in just a second. So all in all, my thoughts on the video game awards, I thought that they were pretty good, man. Like, I know that there were a lot of people trashing the show, and I think I know why. I think the problem with the Game Awards, and if I had to give Jeff Keighley any genuine feedback, I think he did a great job with the announcements. Like, there was a lot there. There were a lot of good things. And at least I thought so. And I thought that it was actually good, like, in terms of the stuff that was there to be announced and to be revealed. The problem with the Game Awards is the show is too long, and I mean, I know that Jeff Keighley probably can't do anything about this, but there are just too many ads. Like, there are just too many ad breaks, too many things that are just in your face where it's like, oh my God, like, I feel like I'm watching cable TV and I can't stand, or I'm listening to the radio and an 8-minute ad block comes on. And I understand that he probably doesn't have a choice. He needs that for the money to be able to even put the show on. But I don't know. I feel like the only thing he has to do is try to find a way to condense the show, truly. And I know that sounds strange because it's like, well, you're trying to balance giving awards and giving them enough time, giving the creators and the developers enough time to celebrate their awards. Trust me, dude. True, everyone hates ads, but he's got to make money. Dude, that's how I make money on YouTube here as well. Ad revenue, man. So trust me, I get it. I get it more than most people, right? But there has to be a balance that's achieved. And I think that it's tough because you want to give out awards, you want to celebrate the games, you want to give developers time, but you also want to have announcements so people are actually interested in watching the show. But then you also have to have time for all the ads. And it's like, that's why the show is so inflated, because it feels almost like Jeff is biting off more than he can chew, where he wants all these things to be there at one time. Something's got to give. And what's going to give is it's going to be a 3-hour show, dude. And it's like, I'm going to tell you now, that's going to upset people, And I think Jeff's solution to this each year is and I think that this is how his mind works, because it makes sense. I think Jeff Keighley's answer to that is, well, we can't remove the ads. This is an award show. We can't, gyp the devs and gyp the award side. So maybe the best solution is let's try to get bigger and better reveals, so that way that will make people feel less upset about how long the show was or how many ads there were. And I agree. I don't think that, even though I thought the show was good and there were a lot of great reveals and a lot of great, um, new game reveals and world premieres, I don't think there was enough to justify the 3-hour show. I think he got closer to that, but there needs to be like that one or even two games that are like whoa, like this is like next level. This is like something I would expect to see at a PlayStation showcase. If he can do that, if he can get that to that point, then I don't think people will care that the show's 3 hours long. But I think that right now we're still at that point where people are, they're still a little bit upset. That's my take on it. That's my opinion. And I will say this. I know that Jeff Keighley gets a lot of flack, and I know that the Game Awards get a lot of flack, and a lot of that is deserving, or at least some of it is. Some people just get vile with the stuff they say for some reason. But I will say that I am still grateful that Jeff does put the show together at the end of each year because, and I'm not saying this just as a content creator, I mean as a gamer, like it's always nice to have something to look forward to, even if it can be a little bit of a letdown at times. So, yeah. Darkborn, you're saying that you think Hellblade 2 looks good and you're happy for Ninja Theory. You just hope that the Series S doesn't hold the game or future games back. It's a legit problem they will face. We'll see. Yeah, we'll have to see how developers can work around the Series S. I just pretty much have chose to ignore it at this point because it's not going anywhere. You know what I mean? So it is what it is. Sir Holmes, you're saying we don't need a new God of War, Hideo Kojima, or Naughty Dog game. We need a new Beetlejuice video game or Ninja Turtles game for PS5. That is the most random super chat, I think. But hey, man, if that's what you believe, then keep believing. Maybe one day you'll get that Beetlejuice game. That AAA Beetlejuice video game. That AAA Ninja Turtle game from Sucker Punch. Who knows, just keep dreaming, man. They can't take that away from you. Thadex, you're saying last comment to Hellblade 2 and Horizon Forbidden West commenters. Sorry to regress. So I guess you're asking for one last comment from me. My last comment to anybody who is trying to compare these two games. I don't think there's anything wrong with making comparisons. I think that it's natural and we're human beings. We're going to do it, And I think that it actually makes sense that, in this case, Xbox, PlayStation, AAA games, you're going to make those comparisons. But I feel like if you're going to do it, again, it just boils down to it's not what you say, it's how you say it. It's not what you present, it's how you present it, right? What you're presenting, how you're presenting, what you're presenting is just as important as what you're actually presenting. And what I mean by that is just understand that there are major differences between these games. There are art style differences, gameplay differences, genre differences. And as long as you make the comparisons with those in mind and realize that because of those major differences, there's going to be nuance involved in that comparison, as long as you can do that and do it respectfully, then there's no problem. But the problem is truly people don't do that. They don't want to do that. They don't care to do that. And because of that, it gets toxic very quickly. So hopefully everybody understands what I'm trying to convey, but that's my last comment on the matter. Ekim, you're saying favorite win was Kana for best indie. That's going to help Ember Lab Studios grow. Now they can acquire more talent and resources for the next game. Absolutely. I have to imagine that Ember Lab is feeling pretty good about taking home best indie game, and I'm sure Sony's feeling proud of them. And yeah, as I said, man, Kana was amazing, and I hope that Sony continues to grow that partnership with them, with Ember Lab, because they're a great studio. I think they proved that with Kana. All right, we are moving on to the next topic. I apologize that we spent so much time on that, but it's the nature of the beast. So, next topic. I want to talk about, and the truth is, I'm probably not going to talk too long about this because I don't know that there's that much to be said, but it is something that we do have to bring up. We know what the Matrix Awakens and Unreal Engine 5 experience is. It's a tech demo for next-gen consoles that is showcasing what Unreal Engine 5 is capable of, and gamers are seemingly very impressed by it. It really does show, even if it's at 30 frames per second, what games can begin to achieve once developers stop making games for the PS4 and Xbox One and focus solely on the current generation consoles. With that being said, I cannot even begin to imagine what some of Sony studios will be able to achieve once we get further into the PS5's life cycle. Thaddex, you're saying, I meant my previous comment before my super chat, LOL, but I appreciate your view on it. Oh, sorry about that, buddy. I didn't know that that's what you meant. But I'm going to keep the show flowing. I appreciate the super chat. Sorry I didn't fully understand what you said the first time, bud. But this new tech demo with the Matrix Awakens, the Unreal Engine 5 experience, what do you guys think of it? Do you like? I played it, and so here are my thoughts on it. My first thought is I was impressed by the visuals, no doubt about that. I actually didn't even realize it was at 30 frames per second. I think I was just so impressed by the quality of the visuals that I just didn't even think that this is at 30 frames. We got to the gameplay section, and it's a tech demo. I understand that. It's a tech demo, so I don't care how bad the gameplay was. All I want to say is that if we get a game that looks that good, I really won't be able to truly get a feel for how good the game, like how amazing that will be, until we get like actual good gameplay mechanics. You know what I mean? Because it was on rails, and you can explore the open world, and you can drive cars, and when you can tell that this is a tech demo, because when you start driving the vehicles and you start to get at high speed, the frame rate tanks and it gets messy. And so you can tell like this is truly just a tech demo. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, I don't really like tech demos that much anymore. I was really impressed with the first one we got with, you know, Sony being like, here's what's possible on the PS5, until I kind of realized that like, yeah, but is that really like, are we really going to be getting games like this anytime soon? And it's like, well, no, maybe like 4 or 5 years from now. It's like, oh. So it's nice to see what's possible, right? But I'm kind of getting tired of some of this. Not all of it, but I'm getting tired of some of this is what's possible. Is what can be achieved. This is the future. And I'm not trying to be negative. I'm just trying to be honest, where it's like, that's great, but like, can we just get a move on and like, not get there, because I know it's going to take time, but like let's just focus on what's here now. And I don't know, I guess I feel this way because when I was finished it, I was like, my God, like it feels like a almost like a painful tease. You know what I mean? Like this is what a next gen AAA Matrix game could be like, but that's not what this is. You know, it's like, it's just the biggest tease in the world. And I want to make it clear that I'm not being negative about it, because I thought it was great. It's a free download, and it was awesome. But it just created this kind of conflicting feeling within me where I'm like, man, it kind of depressed me a little bit. Not depressed. That's too dramatic. I'm not depressed. The Matrix Unreal Engine 5 tech demo didn't depress me. It made me a bit annoyed that we are over a year into these new consoles. You know, people are saying like, dude, don't call it next gen, because it's not next gen, it's current gen. And you're absolutely correct. This is current gen. But all I'm thinking to myself is, man, it's disappointing to see something like this, playing it in, you know, on my PS5 right in front of me, knowing that it's just not a real game, that every game I'm getting over the next year, almost every game over the course of 2022 is going to be cross-gen. And that's why I was left disappointed, because I just kind of thought to myself, like, I really thought that in 2022, we were going to be past the cross-gen stuff. But because of the pandemic and because of the scarcity of the new consoles, it's understandable. I understand the reason, but it doesn't take away my feeling on the matter, which is I don't know, man. It really does kind of suck that we're pretty much not going to get games like this that look like this or play anything like this. Like that level of fidelity and that level of quality, we're not going to get something like that probably until like late 2023, possibly not till 2024. And that is disappointing. In fact, I think that one of the first games we could see achieve, like I'm talking a real open world game, a AAA open world game that is meant to be played, and it's not a tech demo, but it's a full blown like $70, $60, whatever game. I think the first game we could see really do something. I see some is the mic fading out a little bit. Is Spider-Man 2. Spider-Man 2 is an open world game based in New York City, and it's going to be PlayStation 5 only. Insomniac Games, one of a top tier, high caliber studio is working on it. I have a feeling that the first game we're going to experience that I think makes people walk away from it being like, holy crap, like this is now we're in that next gen phase. Like it's current gen, but like these are the next gen games that I was expecting in terms of graphics and fidelity and how amazing like an open world game can actually look. I think that that's the first game potentially. And when I think about how good these graphics looked, like what's crazy about this is I'm not saying that this was thrown together, but it's a tech demo. This isn't like a fully polished, fully refined AAA game. Just imagine what a studio like Naughty Dog or a studio like Santa Monica or or maybe even Ben's studio, maybe they could shock us, right? Because they're making a new open world game. Just imagine what Sony's studios, actually Ben's studio might be using Unreal Engine 5. We don't know yet, or they could be working on their own proprietary engine. But just imagine like looking at what we saw with the graphics in this Unreal Engine demo. Imagine a Naughty Dog game in 2024 or 2025 on your PS5, what that's going to look like. And that's when I'm like, okay, yeah, it's going to be a while till we get that, but man, it's going to be mind blowing. Like it really is going to be next level. And I'm not trying to say that we won't get other impressive games outside of Sony Studios, because we absolutely will. But I just think that Sony, this is what Sony's known for. Sony is known in the industry as like they set the bar. They're the high watermark. They have the talent that does things that you just don't see from other studios and other developers. And I think that we're going to be shocked by the end of this generation, or closer towards the end of it, with what we get. Let me see here. Tom R., you're saying tech demos aren't interactive. They lack physics, etc. Unrealistic. New Horizon is currently the best example of next gen in the short term. Yeah, that's it. That's the thing, man. Is like when I look at Horizon's gameplay and some of the stuff they're achieving, that's why I'm so thoroughly impressed by it, because I'm like, this is a cross-gen game. Like, let me know what what is the next Horizon going to look like when it's not being tethered to the PS4? What can be achieved then? You know what I mean? And that's what kind of is crazy. And I know a lot of people look to like Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, and there's no doubt that Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart is a great example, but even Naughty Dog themselves, not Naughty Dog, even Insomniac Games themselves said that what we're doing with Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, this is just scratching the surface. So, I don't know, man. I don't know. But you are right. That's one thing I don't like about these demos or the tech. Are we back yet? Seems my OBS disconnected for a minute. Not a minute, like a couple seconds. Okay. I don't know why it did that. Hopefully it doesn't keep happening. Okay. I'm just going to keep going like nothing happened. So, okay. But yeah, what I was trying to say is this is why I'm not a big fan, You're saying upgrade my internet. Dude, my internet is top tier. It's not my internet. I think it was just it was something else. Could have been YouTube, could have just been OBS, I don't know, could have been my PC. My internet's fine. You know, I don't like these tech demos because you're right, they are not realistic. Like, these are not indicative of what games are going to be. You know what I mean? Like, in terms of like visual fidelity, like what could be achieved, but I could be wrong. I mean, look, I'm not a developer, and I listened to Digital Foundry, and I read what some other developers were saying, and they're like blown away by this Unreal Engine 5 tech demo. And I feel like it's the technology that's powering the demo and what could be achieved with that technology, I think, is probably the aspect of it that it's like, okay, like this could do something. It's happening again. I guess I'll just wait a second here, see if it's gonna sort itself out. I think it's okay. Like, on my end, everything looks good, but I don't know. I hope it doesn't keep happening, because that's going to be really annoying. That's going to make for an unpleasant viewing experience for sure. So just yeah. So all right, just let me know if it keeps happening. You know, in the chat. But by the way, guys, while I have you, if you could do me a favor, please hit the like button. We're almost at 500 likes. If we could get to like 550 or 600, that'd be amazing. Hicksock, you're saying Insomniac's AW, Insomniac's AW, that Matrix demo. Oh snap, what now? I'm assuming you're saying like their reaction to it. I don't know. Hicksock, you might have to clarify for me. Clammy True Colors, you're saying The Last of Us Part 2 and Uncharted 4 have far exceeded the UE4 demo shown on PS4. Sony Studios will do better than the Matrix demo. John Lindemann also said that. See, that's how I feel, man. You're saying Insomniac saw. Okay, sorry. I probably should have put that together. Saw that Matrix demo and said, oh snap, what now? Yeah, well, that's the thing, dude, is I absolutely believe, and I know that people are like, oh, you're just a fanboy. I don't care if you think I'm a fanboy. It's what I'm thinking about. When I saw this demo and I'm like, this is a multi-platform demo, and apparently the Coalition helped refine this demo for the Xbox Series X in particular. I think that Epic actually helped with the PS5. But I that's the thing, man, is like, I think about the end of the generation with the PS4 and what type of games we were getting. Like you said, even with Uncharted 4 wasn't the end of the generation for the PS4. That was like midway. And that was like, yeah, like extremely impressive. And it only got better from that point. And this isn't me trying to like brag about Sony Studios, but to be honest, it kind of, Sony Studios have earned absolutely bragging rights when it comes to visuals. And I know that people are always like, well, visuals aren't everything. You're absolutely right. Visuals are not everything. You know, there's a reason why I said that I needed to see more Hellblade gameplay, because even though the visuals were like amazing, the same thing can be said for any game. And that's why, like, I guess I'm not like mind blown by this demo. I'm impressed with it, and I'm like, this looks very good. It just felt kind of torturous, because I'm like, all I'm thinking is I'm walking around the city, I'm looking at everything, and I'm impressed, but I can't do anything. And it kind of started to drive me a little bit nuts, where I'm like, this just feels like torture. This feels like a big tease. And it's like teasing, like, this is what could be possible if somebody made a game with these types of graphics, but nobody made that game yet. And I'm like, okay, like, let's get that game, you know, like, let's go. And I have to say that I'm fully confident. I'm fully confident that, like, Clammy True Colors, like what you're saying here, what we saw from Sony later in the generation, far, not just exceeded, but far exceeded what was shown on the UE4 demo for PS4, I think we will see the same thing. I think this generation will last longer. I think we're going to get a PS5 Pro. I think this generation will last longer than what you would consider a traditional generation, which a traditional generation, I think, lasts 5-6 years, right? That's like the general expectation. I think this gen will be extended due to not only the pandemic, but as we said, like the uptake of these consoles is going to take a little bit longer, and developers are taking longer to make games just for these new consoles. I think because of that, this generation could extend to 7-8 years, maybe even 9 years, especially when you're talking about having a pro model of a console halfway through. You know, maybe we could get a PS4 Pro or PS5 Pro in 2024 or something, you know? And the reason why I'm saying this is because the potential, the ceiling for what Sony could do, like, you know, I remember back when The Last of Us 2, before it came out, this was like months before it came out, I made a video and I had fun making this video because of the thumbnail. On the thumbnail, and this was like way back in 2019, way back, you know, so long ago. It feels like it. I put in the thumbnail, like, it's going to melt PS4s. And I said that because it was like, at the time, people were just kind of in awe with how good The Last of Us 2 looked. Like, they couldn't believe that it looked that good. And it's not just The Last of Us 2. Even, honestly, even a game like Death Stranding, like, I feel like that game doesn't get enough credit. Days Gone looked really good as well. But for me, I remember, like, playing Death Stranding too. I was like, this is very impressive, like, with the way this game looks, like, just the visuals. I feel like it didn't get enough credit. Maybe it did, actually. I can't remember, but I remember I was very impressed by it. Ghost of Tsushima, you know, a game, like, you know what's shocking? Look at Infamous Second Son, man. Like, that game holds up. Ghost of Tsushima looked incredible, but I'm more impressed by Infamous Second Son because that came early in the PS4 generation. That came out, 2014? And yeah, I think it still holds up, man. And so I don't know, dude. I think we're in for a surprise. I think we're in for a treat later this generation. Our fan, you're saying, did you read the DFC report, MBG? People really care about visuals. I did. Yeah, they do. They really do. Visuals, that's why Sony is, you know, that's why it's very important for them. They think it's important, as well as their developers. They want to be able to stay on top, you know, of the visual fidelity of how good. Like, you better believe that Sony's devs right now who are working on games that we don't know about, you know, I'm talking about like some I got to stop saying next gen, but like some PS5 only exclusives that are currently deep in development or halfway through development that we don't know about. You better believe they're looking at this Unreal Engine 5 Matrix demo and they're like, we're going to beat that. We're going to beat that by a lot. Like, that's what we're going to do. That is the mentality that Sony has. That is the culture that they have. And that's not like you know, it's not to be arrogant. It's just confidence, you know, like we can, you know, if that's the bar, we're going to surpass it potentially by a lot. That's what we're going to do. And that's one of the things I like about Sony and their development teams. And yeah, I'm, you know, it's going to be exciting. It's going to be exciting. So all in all, I was impressed with the Matrix demo. I was very, very disappointed at how like uninteractive it was. But then again, it was a free somewhat interactive demo. So I can't really complain too much. But generally speaking, it looked really good. And man, there were certain parts, specifically when they were showing Keanu Reeves and Carrie-Anne Moss before you got into the gameplay segment, where I was like, whoa. Like that is crazy how good that looks. So I'm excited, man. I'm very excited for what the future holds. But with that being said, we are going to move to the next topic. If you guys could do me a favor, hit that like button for me. The next topic is talking about Sony and studio acquisitions, because they made a random studio acquisition announcement on Friday that, you know, it was surprising because it just came out of nowhere, the actual announcement itself. But Sony made the announcement that they have acquired Valkyrie Entertainment. This is a support studio that has helped on some big games such as God of War, Halo Infinite, Forza, Lord of the Rings, Shadow of War, and more. It's clear Sony's plans to leverage this studio's support experience, and that's what they're going to do. They're going to be leveraging this team that they bought as a support studio. They have a lot of experience doing this. This is going to help take the load off of many of Sony's big AAA teams that are working on big games. And outsourcing is becoming more and more of an essential thing within AAA game development. So Sony having a studio like this in-house is going to help make things just that much more efficient for them and less stressful for the developers. This will also help their studios meet their deadlines and potentially allow for games to come out sooner. Part of that is less delays. Having this support team is critical. And I feel like looking at this acquisition, it gives you a clear idea of what exactly Sony's strategy is. And I do like this. I'm actually excited to see this because I saw that there were some people making fun of this studio acquisition. I'm like, I wouldn't be making fun of this if I were you. If you're really into that mentality of console war stuff and, who's going to get the upper hand, who's making the smarter moves. If you're really into that conversation, I'm going to tell you right now, you shouldn't be laughing at this acquisition that Sony made, because what you should be realizing is that, okay, Sony absolutely is playing chess here. Sony isn't just acquiring studios such as Housemarque and Bluepoint Games because not only do they make sense, not only are they extremely talented, not only will they fit perfectly within PlayStation Studios, but they are also looking for other aspects, within certain studios that can benefit their entire strategy, their entire structure, right? And what we know about Sony, and in fact, I think what we like about Sony so much, is they make some of the biggest and best games in the industry. That's a fact. Now, do other publishers make really big games? Yeah, they do. Really awesome games, of course. But Sony is a standout. Sony has this quality seal to them that is very important for them. It's a differentiating factor that you can't really put a price on. And so Sony having this support studio, this in a situation like with Horizon Forbidden West, we saw that it was targeting late 2021. In an ideal world, we would have already been playing. We would be playing right now Horizon Forbidden West, but it had to be delayed. And now it's coming out in February. So it needed a couple more months. And those few months are critical. Having a studio like this underneath Sony's belt, within that wheelhouse, this could have been the difference maker. This could have been the difference maker between actually we will be able to hit our date. We have this entire support studio where all hands are on deck now, helping get this game ready to cross the finish line. And for all we know, we do know actually, if you go on their website, this studio is currently working on God of War Ragnarok. They're supporting with God of War Ragnarok. So now that they're fully owned by Sony, whatever other games they were working on, very likely, if they had any other games that they were working on, Sony's like, yeah, you're not working on those games anymore. Now you're all hands are on deck helping God of War Ragnarok cross the line, And then after that, we're going to move you on to the next big AAA game. And I just think that this is really good because this is going to help the environment. This is going to help Sony's culture. This is going to make it so that it potentially could be less stressful for developers, where they can focus more on what they need to focus on and not necessarily the deadline itself. And when there's just, it's also worth noting that a problem that, and this is where that somebody brought it up earlier, Halo Infinite, one of the biggest problems with Halo Infinite and its development cycle is that there were so many contract workers that were just in and out, different people doing different things. Nobody knows, what the other hand's doing and whatnot. This is another thing that's going to really help Sony, is that having a support team, a studio just specifically to support their teams in-house, removes the stress of okay, we got to hire this amount of contractors for this amount of time. And once their contract's up, we got to hire more. Then we got to let them know what's going on and get them in on the loop. You know what I'm saying? So all in all, it's just going to make things more efficient. As games grow bigger, team sizes grow bigger, and these are solutions for emerging problems. And an emerging problem is, can you have a team of full-time workers of like 500 developers? Well, you could, but what happens when the game ships? Half of those developers, or at least probably more than half of those developers who are full-time employees, they're not going to have anything to do now because they're all working on different things, So by that, I mean, there's different sections to development studios that are doing different things at different times. I hope all of this is making sense. I'm probably not wording it very well, but it's a significant move, and it's going to be interesting to see if Sony continues to make this. And I saw a comment that somebody left where, I think it was on Twitter, I announced that, I didn't announce it, but I said that it seems like Sony isn't done making announcements for 2021. And somebody was like, dude, I'm tired of announcements like this. Like, I don't care about studios. I don't care about studio purchases. I want to see Sony announce new games. And I'm like, that's fine, but you have to understand like where this falls in with the bigger picture. If you care about game announcements, if you care about getting more games from PlayStation, then this should matter to you, because what this means is that the chances of getting more games quicker and at the same quality level, or even a higher quality level than you were maybe even expecting, or the quality level you are expecting, that just went up. That increased. That's what this did. And I feel like that's where people don't really fully understand what they're looking at with this acquisition. So I'm not saying you should be over the moon like, yeah, that's right, Sony coming out here dunking. Like, no. It's all about the strategy. Okay. I feel like I'm starting to say that. Okay. Don't want to start saying that. Move this over here. You're saying Magnum Visuals. You're saying Halo was made with contracts from Fiverr. Is that how that? Yeah, that's interesting. Interesting. All right, so that's pretty much all I had to say about that topic in particular, because there's really not much to be said. I will add one other thing to it, though, before I move on to the next topic, which is, I think it's safe to say that Sony is nowhere near done making acquisitions. And I think that we already knew this. Like, Sony acquired more studios in 1 year than they did in the past decade. That tells you all you need to know. But I do think that, a lot of people were saying, oh, Sony has a different strategy than Microsoft, or at least it seems that way. Or Sony, if you just analyze their strategy, it's clear that they are very precise with what they do. They're not just going to buy any studio. They have very specific intentions with whatever studio they choose to buy. And I feel like we saw all this. Okay, we saw with Bluepoint Games, Housemarque. These studios are not just random pickups. They absolutely made sense, and there's a reason for it. Even a game like not a game, but a game developer like Nixxes, there's intent. The intent is you need to be the PC support studio, because we don't want our main development teams worrying about optimizing for PC. That's not what they should be worried about. Whenever we decide we're going to put a game on PC, it's going to go through you. You're going to work on the optimizations, or maybe Nixxes is a support team where they're going to help, So we'll have to see. I think that that's generally what Nixxes is, but basically what I'm trying to say right now, guys, is that Sony is not done. They are far from done, and that's just, that's the truth. And I think that going into 2022, we are going to see some potentially even more significant acquisitions made by Sony. That's what I'm thinking. So you can let me know what you think of that. But the next topic in line I want to discuss has to do with the next PlayStation event. When is Sony going to come out again and reveal some new games? When is Sony really going to come out and just kind of lay it all out? I feel like this is a somewhat important conversation to have, because 2021 is coming to a close. Some people are still holding out hope for a PlayStation experience that will possibly be announced next week. We're going to talk about that in just a minute. It's worth kind of evaluating the landscape right now, I think, because I think the answer is obvious, and I think it's clear now if it's not for everybody. So I just want to take a moment to talk about that. So I wrote down here a question I was being asked after the Game Awards wrapped up is if I thought there was any possibility of Sony still holding a PlayStation experience before the year ends. I think some fans were wondering this since Sony didn't really have a significant presence at the Game Awards. They were very conservative, as we said, but Sony usually doesn't reveal much at the Game Awards or really anything outside of their own shows. We do seemingly have an answer to this question, though. We have Millie A on Twitter, who answered a follower, somebody who follows her, and this person asked if Sony was holding a PlayStation experience this year. And she said, no, there's no PlayStation experience. I believe that's what she said, just no PlayStation experience in general. And that's all she said. Now, it's up to you to decide if you believe Millie A is trustworthy or, a good insider or not, or somebody who's actually worth listening to. But as of right now, from anybody who, is following any insiders or even paying attention to that at all, she's seemingly one of the only people that that has some idea of what's going on. And so I think it's kind of obvious at this point that Sony's done for the year. And the truth is, I don't know when Sony plans to, well, of course I don't know. If I knew, I would tell you, but you're saying Millie A is unreliable. She said that Hogwarts was going to be at the Game Awards. And well, I mean, look, I think that this is another situation, just like with any other insider. From what I understand, she basically said that it would be at the Game Awards, and then she started putting out new information, basically saying that WB decided to pull Hogwarts from the Game Awards because they're worried about backlash with the J.K. Rowling stuff and whatnot. Maybe there's truth to that. Maybe there isn't. I don't think it matters. Honestly, I don't think her answer matters that much. I'm not sitting here being like, oh, well, she knows everything, and so what she says is the truth. I'm sure she, she's just we know how this goes by now, guys. We've been following this long enough. Insiders come and go. They rise up, like weeds left and right, and they all eventually go away, and they suffer the same fate, which is, you build up your credibility as an insider by getting one, two, or maybe a few things correct. And all it takes, it's like a house of cards for your credibility to just be gone is one mistake. You're wrong once or maybe twice, or, maybe you said something and then the plan changed, and maybe you weren't wrong, but the plan changed. It's the nature of, trying to figure out, what's going on behind the scenes and how things you're not supposed to know about. One of the reasons you're not supposed to know about them is because they can change. You know what I'm saying? So, Andrew, you're saying what happened to the leaked Chrono Cross reveal? It still could come, man. I mean, nobody said that game reveal had to happen at an event. I think everybody just assumed it would have to happen at an event. Square Enix could reveal that tomorrow, or Tuesday or something. I'm not saying they will, but it could also be that they decided to push it. But when it comes to PlayStation and their next showcase and their next showing, I'm going to give my opinion on when I think that's going to happen. Well, first of all, I think Sony is in a position currently where it would, and I say this, disappointingly so, because, you guys know how I am. I'm always excited for the next Sony showcase, seeing new games. Obviously, we all want that. We all want to be excited. But realistically speaking, Sony is absolutely in a position where it would be best for them to do nothing anytime soon. But by nothing, I just mean when it comes to new announcements and reveals. I think that Sony, truthfully, is not going to have an event or showcase until June of next year, of 2022. I know a lot of people are thinking maybe it'll be February or March, but I really want you to think about I really want you to think about that for a moment. If you're somebody who's thinking February or March makes sense, it kind of doesn't. And I think people need to understand that there's no reason whatsoever, like no actual reason for Sony to reveal or announce anything new in February or March. If you think about it, truthfully, like really think about it, the only time next year that makes sense, the only time that makes sense for Sony to announce anything new is in June. Maybe May. I could see May as well, but I think June, around E3 time, around that area. I don't think you're saying no event until God of War Ragnarok releases. I don't think that's true, Devil Shooter. I'll tell you why in a minute. It's an Arcane Blitzer, member for 4 months. Play has no limits. Thank you so much, buddy. You're saying, what are your plans for your channel this holiday season, MBG? Will you go on break for the holidays? This will be my first Christmas with your channel. I don't know what happens here at that time. It really depends. I mean, there will likely be like a few days where I'm not uploading because, I'm enjoying my holiday like everybody else and spending time with the family, doing all those holiday-esque things. But generally speaking, I do keep the content flowing pretty well on the channel. I just usually take a few more days off than I normally would towards the end of the month. It also is very dependent on what type of content I'm able to make, what's going on at the time. It's usually pretty difficult because there's not anything going on. So we'll see. My hope is that I can keep the content flowing pretty consistently, but with just a few extra days off here and there. So, like, for example, I'm very likely not going to upload on Christmas or maybe even Christmas Eve, just as an example. But thanks for asking, man. Yeah, so I saw Devil Shooter. You said that there's, Sony's not going to hold an event until after God of War Ragnarok releases. And I think it, like, what you're saying makes sense, and there's absolutely logic to it, but I think this is what's going to happen. Okay? And I'm going to lay it out here and maybe it'll change, but what I think is going to happen is Sony is going to do their big event in June of next year around E3 time when everybody else is. And Sony's going to give us a layout of the games that are dropping and releasing for PlayStation for the second half of 2022. I have to say this because currently the first half of 2022 is crystal clear. We know what Sony has lined up, and they're not holding any secret game announcements that are gonna, like, oh, we have a game that's gonna drop in April of 2022. I think there's a chance, but very, very slim chance. It's very unlikely that that's the case. And because we know what Sony has for the first half, the most important thing people need to pay attention to understand my reasoning for why Sony isn't going to reveal anything for quite some time is because they are having trouble selling enough PS5s. And it's not their fault. It's not Sony's fault. It's not Sony's fault. It's just simply the fact that the world right now is facing a semiconductor chip shortage. The PS5 is greatly affected by this. If Sony had an unlimited amount of PS5s they could sell right now, you better believe they would have shown, we would know about a lot more games right now. We would know about specifically way more PS5 only titles. Not all of them, but way more than we know about now. Sony is purposely holding this back because it's for the same reason that they decided to say God of War Ragnarok is going to be cross-gen. It's for the same reason that they actually went back and said, we told you Gran Turismo 7 was going to be a PS5 exclusive. We changed our mind. It's going to be a PS4 game now. Anything that comes out in 2022 from Sony, well, I can't say anything because we have Forspoken, although that's technically Square Enix. But most of what's coming out in 2022, like the overwhelming majority of what's coming out in 2022 for Sony, will be cross-gen. We will not be shifting gears and going into full, like, current gen only games until 2023. And I think that what we're going to see in June of next year is kind of a 50-50 split from Sony. Sony's going to show us the second half of 2022, which will likely be God of War Ragnarok with a few other games and possibly PlayStation VR 2. And then we're also going to get a glimpse into the first half of 2023, or maybe even all of 2023, because the idea is that in all of 2023, once we get to 2023, this semiconductor shortage shouldn't really be a thing anymore. Basically, Sony should get to that point where now we can just sell PS5s. Like, you could walk into a store and there will be a whole shelf of PS5s to buy. Nobody, no more scalpers, no more fighting over it. And so I think that that's, that all put together lets you know that Sony is absolutely, believe me when I tell you this, and I think it's important people believe me because it's obvious. If you can't see it, Sony is holding back like crazy. Absolutely. People say, well, how come Microsoft isn't? How come when Microsoft did their E3, they announced like everything, or not everything, but like all these games that are years away? Because, dude, you have to understand, like, Microsoft isn't worried about selling Xbox consoles. Sony is. So believe it or not, this semiconductor shortage is not affecting Microsoft as negatively as it's affecting Sony due to different business models. Microsoft is, they have a subscription service where their games go. Their subscription service is all over the place. It's on all PCs, consoles. They might even bring it to TVs soon, So Sony's not doing that same thing. Fabrice, Paul, thank you for the generous donation, buddy. You're saying, I'm tired of people disrespecting Bethesda. Almost all the time they make an RPG, they change how we see RPGs. They have the only game that can be in the same category than GTA 6. Fallout 76 was made by one of their 4 studios. Well, I hear what you're saying, man. And, maybe people are a little bit hard on Bethesda. I think that the sentiment is that Bethesda has earned some of the flack that has been thrown their way. Like, there's no doubt about that, Fabrice. Like, we have to understand that to an extent, Bethesda has earned some of the flack. However, I do understand what you're saying. There is no doubt that Bethesda is one of these studios where they are known for these groundbreaking games that have, like you said, changed how people view RPGs and changed how some people view the gaming landscape. And they've made, their mark more than once. And there's no doubt about that. And nobody can take that from them. And so it will be interesting, man, to see if they're able to do that again, over the next 5 years, 6 years with games like Starfield and whenever the next Elder Scrolls comes out and whatever else they may be working on in between that. I think we'll get a really good idea this generation we will. It's not that I think. We will get a good idea this generation of how much the Microsoft acquisition affects their quality and their games. Because if it's, people have said that the reason why Bethesda seemed to have lost their way so rapidly the past couple of years or last generation is because they were in like a bad spot financially and they were trying to make more money. I mean, look, I don't know the details of that. That's just what I've heard. If that's true, then them being under Microsoft, we should see some very different results in the long run. So hopefully you're right, Fabrice. Hopefully people will come around. And we have KD saying every Bethesda RPG is broken. It's funny. I feel like Bethesda really is, they've like made it to that level where it's like, there are not many game studios that could release a game that is that buggy and get away with it. I think Bethesda is one of those few studios where like people are just like, yeah, it's going to be a buggy mess, and we know this and that's what we expect. And it's okay. We'll see. I don't know. Maybe Bethesda games launching in the Game Pass, if they are still buggy like that when they launch, I have to imagine them launching those games into Game Pass will potentially help that, where it's like, well, it's in Game Pass. I could be wrong. We'll see. But thank you guys for the super chats. But to get back to the topic of the next PlayStation event, I'm open to being wrong. In fact, I would like to be wrong. I want to get your opinion on this. I'm going to be looking to the chat. And if you're somebody who's listening to this after it's live, you can let me know in a comment. How did you guys feel about PlayStation this year when it comes to announcements? Give me a grade, A, B, C, or D. how do you feel overall, PlayStation, specifically with game announcements and reveals like their showcase event and whatever else they may have revealed throughout 2021? I'm curious to see what you guys say about that. I see 3 Bs, an A+. I wouldn't give Sony an A+. C, B, C, B. A lot of C's, a lot of B's. I've seen another A. Just out of curiosity, for those who are giving Sony an A, please wait till the chat slows down. Wait till the chat is like back to normal. But when you see that the chat is back to normal, let me know why you're giving Sony an A, because I'm curious to know, because I don't give Sony an A. I don't. I want to, but I can't, because that would be disingenuous. Like, you're saying, considering the situation, they've done reasonably well. It's not mind-blowing. That's how I feel. That's exactly how I feel. I think Sony has definitely risen above some of the issues, and they're doing a good job keeping everything on track. But trying to see. You're saying B+ would give an A if they give me more info on games like Lost Soul Side, Project Awakening, etc. Other than that, I feel overwhelmed with games. Yeah, that's true. There is a lot to play. Even for a weaker year like 2021, not just for PlayStation, but in general, there's still a lot to play. Stated plays were missing something. True. Yeah, so for me, well, Thaddeus, you're saying, with everything going on, do you have recommendations for specs on monitors and TVs that can properly display pseudo next-gen graphics? To be honest, man, I fell out of that. I don't really follow YouTube channels or online outlets that cover TVs and screens and monitors, because I did that last year in preparation for the PS5, and then I just stopped. But I mean, generally speaking, man, I think you just kind of want to go for anything that can properly display 4K, 60 hertz. I mean, I would recommend, if you're able to, try to invest in a TV that can display, 4K, 120 hertz for gaming, because that's becoming more prevalent. I see a lot of people in the chat, any LG OLED, LG C1, the Sony A80J. So there you go, man. My chat has you covered better than I could. But yeah, I mean, obviously you want HDR as well if you can get that. I see a lot of recommendations for the LG C1, so you might want to look into that. You're saying I should do more polls to ask people to grade? Yeah, I should. Samsung. But yeah, hopefully you're gonna have to refer to the chat, Thaddeus. I'm sure they're giving you some good recommendations right now. But yeah, I just want to say that overall, I have felt, I don't want to say underwhelmed, because underwhelmed isn't the right word to describe how I feel about Sony this year when it comes to announcements and reveals. But I do feel that it was not what it could have been. And I think the reasonings for that are obvious. We already went over those reasonings. But what I do genuinely believe is that 2022 is looking so strong for Sony. Like, Sony really doesn't have to do anything next year. At least they could just do the bare minimum. I hope they don't, but I mean, they're going to have Horizon Forbidden West and God of War Ragnarok launching in the same year. And then after that, we got Spider-Man 2 in 2023. But I just have a feeling that Sony has these projects that are going on, these games that are in development behind the scenes, that they're going to blow us away. I do. I don't know what they are. I'm just guessing right now, but I feel confident in that. And I think that most people do. I don't think anybody's like, oh yeah, Sony. I mean, look, we see people troll on the channel all the time. They're like, oh, Sony has nothing. It's like, okay, yep, Sony has nothing. But realistically speaking, you're saying, MBG, I understand what you're saying. They revealed that they have 25 games in development and we got one surprise announcement in Wolverine. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Is my OBS messing up again? I see somebody saying something. I don't know if it... OBS says nope. It seems to be fine on my end, so give me anxiety, man. Give me anxiety. But yeah, that's what I'm saying. GMTA Entertainment is that like Sony keeps coming out here like we got 25 games in development. We got 25 games in development. We know about a solid chunk of those games that are in development, right? Like we know about some of those. But man, we don't know about 25 games. Like there's probably easily 10 plus games, probably more than that, maybe 15. Just these games that are in development. And there's also all of the rumors that we've been hearing for a long time. And I do think that there is truth to at least a good handful of these rumors, but it's all about timing, man. It really is. The pandemic really screwed up the beginning of this gen. It really did. It really screwed up the beginning of this gen. And it almost makes it so that it feels like the generation maybe should have come a year or two later. I know that sucks, and it would have been torturous to get like, you know, to find out that we're going to have to play the PS4 and PS4 Pro for another year or two. But I mean, you know, it's just the reality of it. So I guess to wrap up this topic, you're saying how many of those 25 games are AAA? I don't know. That's the big question, right? One thing we do know, though, is that Sony does have more hardware that they have to reveal and talk about and market, that being PlayStation VR 2. So, I mean, Sony could do that any way they want. Sony doesn't necessarily have to do that at an event per se. I think the line of thinking is that they will. Like, that's the logical way to do it, or that's the expected way, but they don't have to. MBG, do you think we'll get a special state of play for God of War Ragnarok like Horizon Forbidden West next year? I do, absolutely. And that's going to be awesome. Yeah, Sony's definitely going to keep doing that, where they do their state of plays focused just on one game. I think it's been working out really well for them. But I'm interested to see what Sony's planning to do for PSVR 2, because I feel like what Sony's going to do with PSVR 2 is they're going to focus less on developing AAA games just for the headset, but they're going to try to find a way to intertwine the game, like their PS5 AAA games, into the headset in a way that makes sense. Kind of like develop for both. I think that that's what they're going to do. MBG, they announced their games too early. Don't you hate that? I mean, it's tough. I like, that's the thing. We talked about this earlier, you know, announcing games too early. I like it, but I don't at the same time. Like, I like getting new game announcements, and like the Wolverine announcement was awesome, but it does make the wait, you know, feel more difficult. But I don't know. It's just, I don't think there's any problem with knowing, you know. Hybrid games. Yeah. Sorry, guys, trying to stay hydrated here. MBG, hold up your mug. I think I had the same one. If I bring it back over here, I will. God of War VR. Yeah, I mean, it's stuff like that that makes you kind of think, like, how is Sony going to incorporate their games into VR? Because they don't have the resources. They just don't have the resources to develop. It's kind of like the same problem they ran into at the PS Vita, where it's like you can't focus development on two separate pieces of hardware. Like, you can't divvy it up like that, you know? It's going to create too much of a strain, spread too thin. KD, you're saying 2021 only feels quiet because it was top heavy, and Kena plus Deathloop didn't make noise on the level of Forza and Halo. Deathloop buzz died with the acquisition too. Yeah, I mean, dude, generally speaking, I think Sony had a strong year. I think that anybody who says Sony had a weak year in 2021, I think they're wrong, just being completely honest. You know, I think that, I mean, it's their opinion, and maybe if there were a lot of games you weren't interested in, but I mean, I definitely feel like it could have been stronger, and we know that 2022 is going to crush 2021. I mean, it's going to crush it, and it's probably going to stay that way for some time. But all that being said, like, I still think that 2021 was a pretty good year for Sony. Still a solid year, because games like Returnal, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, Kena Bridge of Spirits, you know, these are games that I don't think people should just be scoffing at, you know, and just kind of like, oh yeah, sure. And, you know, there's other games too I mean, I will say, like, this year was definitely exciting if you bought a PS5 or you had a PS5 and you didn't play Ghost of Tsushima yet and you didn't play Death Stranding yet, and you get those two games on top of the new games we got, then this year was big for you, I think, for sure. For sure. Magnum Visuals, you're saying people keep putting Xbox in a 2021 bracket. Let's look at day one of those console launches to today and see how many bangers they have. Yeah, again, this is another reason why I just don't like doing these comparisons anymore, because people don't care to look at the bigger picture. And at some point you realize you're just you may as well be arguing with a wall. You know what I mean? Or fighting with a wall, because it's like, yeah, the PS5 launched last November alongside the Xbox Series X, and the Xbox Series X didn't have a single lineup. They didn't have a single game in their lineup that was worth remembering or even talking about. And it stayed that way for almost a year. And I feel like one of the reasons why people don't care so much about that is because if you think about when it happened, it was during a time when people were struggling to get the consoles. So it's almost like people were so focused on the fact that they were having a hard time getting these consoles that they didn't really care that there weren't really any games to play. You know what I mean? At least on the Microsoft side of things. So I think it helped them out in a way. But yeah, I've said it before and I'll say it again. I think Sony's done a really good job being pretty consistent. I mean, honestly, this is the only time. November and December is the only time so far since the launch of the PS5 where it's been really quiet. So basically, we have our first 3-month stretch of things being quiet. And that is if you don't count the Uncharted Legacy of Thieves collection. If you're somebody who is excited for the Uncharted Legacy of Thieves collection launching on PS5, then you are getting something in January of next year. But as of right now, November, December, and pretty much January, this is the first time where there's like a lull period of, like it's quiet. There's no big releases for Sony or nothing of significance that I can think of anyway. And February is going to kick off the year. And one thing I noticed is that the lineup for 2022 for PlayStation is looking very strong so far. I mean, we're starting off February with, in my opinion, 2 bangers. Sifu's going to be great. Come on. Sifu's going to be an amazing game. And I will admit, Sifu is the kind of game that if it was the other way around, if this was a game that was launching on Xbox as like a year timed exclusive or something, I'd go play it. I'd go play it on Xbox. It just looks so good. Dev, Sharma, you're saying Halo 87, Forza 92, Psychonauts 89. All bangers. Yeah, but, well, yeah, I mean, Microsoft's had, we were talking about for the majority of the, basically the first 6 to 7 months of the Xbox being out. I've said it already that I think Xbox has done a good job turning it around so far. I think that it's going to get better for them next year. And it's going to be interesting to watch. You're saying, Spacey, you're saying, bro, Sifu looks so mid. Maybe to you, man. Maybe to you. I don't know. There are just some games where they just speak to me so much. Sifu could be a game where everybody's like, this looks bad, but from what I'm seeing, I'm like, no. This is the game for me. I've been waiting for this game. Sifu's looks incredible, dude. I can't wait for it. Saying you can't wait till Gran Turismo 7 comes out. You pre-ordered the 25th anniversary. Is it the 25th anniversary edition? I think that's what's called. Yeah, that's all. Yeah, dude. GT7, unfortunately for me, I don't know, man. GT7 is going to be a tough one because at the time it releases, I know for a fact I'm not going to be able to play it when it launches. And to be honest, I don't know that GT7 is ever going to be a game I play. I've never played a GT game, and I'm not really a huge racing fan. The only time I ever really got into racing games was with Forza Horizon 4, 3 and 4, I think. But that's about it. But I would like to try it one day. You're saying MVG, I find it ironic that the presenter at the Game Awards was plugging Halo just to announce Returnal, a PlayStation Game 1 element. Yeah, dude, that was pretty funny. I didn't even realize that. That was kind of cringe, though, honestly. But, you know, at least he was trying to get creative with it. Patrick Wagner, you're saying Sifu looks like a John Wick simulator day one. Yeah, dude, I've been saying, man, they need to make a AAA John Wick game. That would be, I mean, how do you not make a AAA John Wick game? You know, I feel like it's right there, people. Like it's right there. Give it to a AAA studio to you know, that can do great gunplay and great hand-to-hand combat. Like it's right there. It doesn't have to have the greatest story. It wants to be made into a game. I feel like it has to happen. But yeah, Sifu definitely gives me John Wick vibes, and I can't wait for it, man. It's day one for me, for sure. Yeah, we do need a new Matrix. I did forget to say that when we talked about the Matrix topic. I forgot to mention that we absolutely need to see a new Matrix game. Like after, like this felt like the biggest tease. I remember playing Enter the Matrix way back in the day. Didn't really like Enter the Matrix that much, from what I remember. But I remember all I could think is I just wanted to play as Neo. I just wanted Neo in this game. And we finally got that. Dude, when Matrix Path of Neo dropped, I was like, oh my God, my prayers have been answered. This is the dream. And that was a great game, dude. Like it was, Path of Neo was the exact Matrix game that I wanted at that time. And I would just love to see a game like that remade with those type of graphics, or just a new Matrix game with Neo in it. Neo's my favorite. So I'm interested to see what happens with Neo in the new Matrix movie. You know, I'm a huge Matrix fan, man. It's like my favorite movie. I was so into those movies. I was young when they came out, but I was so into them. Neo was like my favorite. So it's pretty crazy to see that there's another movie and Keanu Reeves is in it, reprising his role as Neo. I'm really interested to see like where they take it. I hope it doesn't disappoint. I feel like I'm not going to be disappointed no matter what, because I just wasn't ever expecting another Matrix movie. So, you know, hopefully it'll be good. But we should get a game. KD, you're saying Xbox is back to waiting until Starfield, while Sony has Horizon Forbidden West, Sifu, GT7, God of War in 2021, and then Xbox are going to act like Sony didn't release all year when Starfield drops and say it was Xbox's best year. Yeah, I know. I get exactly what you're trying to get at, man. I did see a lot of people saying like, oh, unless it releases in November or December, it doesn't matter. And it's like, I try not to be too hard on Xbox fans right now, because it's like, I get it. You know, I get it. You were waiting for this moment. The time has come. It's Xbox fans' moment to be excited and to celebrate. But it's true. Like, dude, I'm saying 2022 for Sony. Oh my God. Like it's going to be killer, man. Like I'm not fully convinced that God of War is coming out next. I know people don't want to hear that. I hope I want to be completely wrong, and I think I'm going to be completely wrong, but I am not convinced that God of War is going to come out next year, because I'm just still not convinced that we're like, I can't believe we're going to get Horizon Forbidden West and God of War Ragnarok in the same year. I mean, that's crazy. That's crazy to me. But here's the thing. Sony will need stuff for the second half of 2022. Space D, you're saying God of War's 100% going to get delayed out of 2022. I don't think it's 100%. I think that's way too, it's not 100%. I'm just saying that like Sony will need something for the second half of 2022. Right now, there's nothing we know of that could fill that big tentpole release for the second half of 2022 other than God of War Ragnarok. So what we could see happen is, again, if Sony has their event in June of next year, they announce one or two games that are releasing, in 2022 during the second half. And then maybe they could use that as a way to delay God of War into like February of 2023. But then if they delayed God of War into 2023,
then you're looking at another year where it's like God of Wars and Spider-Man 2 are releasing in the same year. And it's like, this is why I'm saying Sony has it on lock, man. Like, I know everybody talks about how many games that Microsoft is going to have, once all their studios start firing. And that's fine. Like, I'm not taking that away from them. It's true that Xbox is going to have more games than ever before. But when I look at PlayStation's lineup, man, it truly gets me like, we're eating good. Like we're going to be eating good this generation. And when I mean good, I'm talking about like this is a premium cut here. This ain't no. And when I say this, I know people are going to think I'm referring to Xbox. I'm not referring to Xbox when I say this, but this isn't no fast food slop. This isn't like, this is premium stuff here that we're talking about. And I'm not talking about Xbox when I say that. I'm just saying like that's just what I see when I look at Sony's lineup. So it's hard not to get excited about the future of, I don't even want to say the future, but I feel like I've been saying that, but it's not really the future. It's pretty much here. Like, it's starting. And to me, things are really getting started in February of 2022. And I like from February 2022 forward, like I feel like a switch is going to be flipped and things are going to change. Like, it's just going to be different, like different than the entirety of this year. I think back to the launch of the PS5 and like it was lit. The launch of the PS5 was lit, man, where it was like people were hype. But even then, people were depressed because they couldn't get PS5s. But the launch lineup, Miles Morales, Demon Souls, Astrobot, people were like, this is incredible. This is amazing. And I feel like 2021, it just all kind of died out because there's just games are getting delayed. Nobody can buy consoles. We're not seeing any next-gen games announced. Sony's playing it pretty conservative. They delivered Returnal and Ratchet and Clank, but we know like we're the big guns, Sony. We know you're saving it. And dude, I'm telling you, 2022 is the year where the big guns come out. Please don't say lit again, MVG. I don't say, what's weird? I don't know why I said lit. I don't use that term ever. Like, I don't use that term. And my brain was just like, you're going to use it right here, right now for the first time. Although it's probably not the first time I said it, but I don't really use that. So I'm not going to say it again. Don't worry. It's going to be huge. I don't know. Now I don't know what else to say. But yeah, dude, I do feel that 2022 is when things really kick off. And not just for Sony, but I mean for everybody, like the entire industry. I could sense, talking about the Game Awards. Yeah, fire. I think fire sounds better. Yeah. When Jeff Keighley was hyping up the Game Awards, one of the things he kept saying is you're going to get a better sense of like next gen and that feeling. And I know what he's getting at. I don't know that it was as significant as he made it sound, but I just kind of get what Jeff Keighley was feeling, where he's like, we got to move on. Like, let's really get the next gen, like the current gen, let's kick it off. And I feel like he wanted to do that with the Game Awards. And I think, yeah, mostly achieved that with some announcements. But I think it starts, I know that Horizon Forbidden West and God of War Ragnarok and GT7 are all cross-gen. I know that. But I really do feel that it's getting, it begins in February. That's how I feel. It begins in February. That's when it's kicking off. And once February starts, it's like we're getting on the train, and the train's, it's leaving the station and it's not stopping, man. I don't know how long the ride's going to be, but it's going to be a long one and it's going to be a good one. And I'm looking forward to it. That's not to downplay 2021, but come on, we weren't riding the hype train this year. We all know it. The hype train was not a thing this year. We were all hoping it would be, but reality came in and was like, well, just enjoy what it is for now. Space D, again, you're saying with Elder Ring, Starfield, and Breath of the Wild 2, it's a tough year to compete for Game of the Year. Yeah, for sure. I think all those games are going to be in the running. I think, I'm going to be honest, I think that, what was the award that was given out during the Game Awards for most anticipated game? I feel like that entire lineup, that's going to be game of the year lineup next year if all those games release and don't get delayed. So, but I did see somebody in the chat say earlier that they think God of War Ragnarok is going to be holiday 2022 title. I don't think it's going to be holiday, but I could see it being like God of War launching in September of 2022. I don't think Sony doesn't usually do holiday releases. They could though. Actually, they might. They might, because they'll probably have even more PS5s ready to go by November of next year than say September. So, you know, they want to leverage God of War to sell PS5s, even though it's cross-gen, that they're going to do that. Clever Colt 64, you're saying this was a C year at best. They struggled PR wise. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, Sony definitely had some missteps this year with their PR. Like that's one thing that I hope they do improve, because I got to tell you, as a PlayStation content creator, it was disappointing to have to. So much of this year just felt like I had to, you know, talk about these things where it's like, this shouldn't be a problem. This shouldn't even be a thing we're talking about. But Sony said this thing, or they're doing this thing, and people are upset about this. It's like, it was just really annoying, you know? And I hope that Sony does get better with PR next year. J Dizzle NO2, you're saying 2022 is going to be lit with triple anus. There you go. I think J Dizzle really kind of encapsulates the entirety of this topic. And I think that this is a good note to end it on. 2022 is going to be lit with triple anus. So there we go. We're almost at 3 hours and 30 minutes. And I actually got through all of my topics, guys. We did it. I got through all the topics. I enjoyed this podcast. I really did. I'm not saying that I haven't enjoyed my previous podcasts. I enjoy all my podcasts, but this one in particular I enjoyed because I just felt like it's a bit calmer. But with that calmness, I felt like I could be more precise with some of the things that I was trying to convey and say. And I hope you enjoyed it. I really did enjoy it. I am looking forward to, well, honestly, I don't know. Truthfully speaking, I don't know what exactly I'm looking forward to over the next couple of weeks, other than the holidays, of course. But when it comes to gaming, I don't know what to expect. I don't know if there's going to be any more, you know, I doubt there's going to be any more reveals or anything of significance, but I have a feeling there will be some things that will be worth talking about. So I will do my absolute best to keep the content flowing as smoothly as I can on the channel going into 2022. And yeah, so that's pretty much it, guys. That's episode 87 of Press X Podcast, or PXP. If you guys could do me one last favor before you head out, because I'm going to hop off here and get something to eat and try to relax a little bit, enjoy the rest of my Sunday. I hope you all enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Just do me one favor and be sure to hit that like button on your way out. I think that we could bump this up to 600 likes before it ends, and that would be awesome. So a big thank you to everybody who watched and tuned in. A thank you to everybody who's going to watch later on once it's not live and you're watching it after the fact. A big thank you to all my members. A big thank you to everybody who donated a super chat. The super chats help tremendously, help support the channel, keep the content flowing, allows me to do what I do here on YouTube. So really do appreciate it. All the support means the world to me. But there we go. That's episode 87 in the books. I hope you enjoyed it. But with that being said, I'm going to hop off now. And so until next time, guys, take care.